DriveHubler.com studios. This is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
6 and 2, 10 seconds to get the last shot. Halliburton has it, bounces it once, and takes a three from way out that goes right through the middle. Ball comes in from the far side near the hash. Shepard got it in. One bounce Halliburton. He leans in. Brown played him beautifully, but he hit the three anyway. From the left side, it hit the glass, the rim, back to the glass, and it went in. Boy, that was a fortuitous development. Brown with it, straddling the arc right side. Pass deflected, stolen by Siakam. On the Boston turnover, it's Halliburton up the floor, and Siakam, after forcing the turnover, ran from end to end like a gazelle, took the pass in the lane, and threw it down with that sledgehammer. Ball will come in from the baseline far side. Holiday will get it in. He'll get it to the corner. A three on the way, Brown, and we're tied. The good news is that the Pacers have 5 7/10 seconds to counter at the other end. That was not an easy shot. Nembhard will play it in. Game tied, 5 7/10 to go. He got it in. Halliburton has it, drives it, 3 seconds to go. He is in all kinds of trouble. We're going to overtime.
Tatum wanting it, gets it inside. Tatum across the lane, count it, and a foul. Banks it home, and the game is tied. Up to Tatum, sidestep, three-pointer, puts it up, bang!
This loss is totally on me. With 10 seconds in regulation, we should have just taken the timeout, advanced the ball, and found a way to get it in and made a free throw or two and ended the game.
That's not on him. That's not on him. I had 2 bad turnovers that I feel like cost us the game, one in fourth and one in overtime.
We showed our age a little bit tonight, you know what I mean? I think, being a youthful team and being at this high stake of a game, I think those uncharacteristic mistakes just made their way out.
I got to be better, and I will be better in game 2, and we'll respond the right way.
I know the breakdown. Everything is gonna shake now someday.
Absolute kick in the you-know-what, and sadly, unfortunately, you could probably do the Reggie Miller choke towards his former team last night. Shocking. Ryan Bowen texted me on the way into work this morning, Andy, and goes, I went to bed with 10 seconds to go. Could not believe what I just woke up to.
He went to bed with 10 seconds to go?
I wanted to say to him, if you're going to make it that deep, just rock one more inbounds pass. Granted, he would have seen something he did not want to see. ESPN stat, 250 straight playoff games. A team up 3, less than 10 seconds to go, inbounding the ball, wins the basketball game. The Pacers make that stat disappear with their choke job there in the final few minutes. Good Wednesday morning to you. I am Kevin Bowen. Andy Sweeney's voice you just heard. Mark Dykton on the intro. Wow. Just so much good from game 1. The moral victories in the playoffs are hard to really speak to. And that was just a choke job, peeing down your leg there and trying to close it out.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, don't you feel like, and maybe even last series, all that other stuff that we've talked about with this team, they're a young team, they're gaining experience, and everything else. Mark played a Miles Turner soundbite. I want to get to that later in the show because I disagree with him with the youth and everything else. I don't think that was what was going on last night. Sometimes you're in somebody else's movie, and unfortunately for the Pacers, that was the case. And, we come in here a lot, KB, and
maybe a horror film.
Well, yeah, I mean, we give opinions, and, there are listeners that agree with us, and, they often don't let us know they agree with us, and then the ones that disagree with us, they sure as hell let us know. But, I mean, don't we sit in here today? Everyone agrees. Everyone agrees that you gave that one away. Everybody agrees that you let Boston off the hook completely. Everybody agrees, down the stretch, all the things that went wrong, from the turnovers to bad shots to fouling or not fouling and all that. I feel like we're going to sit in here and all just kind of complain and look at each other and all be complaining, don't you think, this morning, KB, about the same very things, the amount of things that they had to do or not do in the last, I would say, 27 seconds of this game to give this one away is unbelievable. It's daunting. The only positive thing, I saw my man JMV tweeted out 3 minutes ago. This team has been tough as hell. They have fought back, and you're going to need every bit of that on Thursday night.
Yeah, I guess I agree with so much of that. It's just this is a different opponent. This is not, the New York Knicks and, whatever. At this point, last series, OG Anunoby's, participation in the series is about to be over. With his injury in Game 2. I think that is what is frustrating is, if you believe the reports about Kristaps Porzingis coming back for Game 4, you've got 3 games to, try and take advantage of, them missing a critical piece. And you saw last night, Al Horford on the defensive end of the floor, certainly the Pacers were attacking him routinely. I thought everything was summed up pretty succinctly by Tyrese Halliburton postgame. And I know Mark played that clip in the open. There was another clip that Halliburton said, he was asked about a turnover late, and Halliburton's response was, which one? That right there is everything you need to know. Was it the one off his leg? Was it the one where he just, frankly, dribbled out of bounds with Drew Holiday on him? Obviously, he didn't have the direct impact on the injured Nembhard. Inbounds there. So much of that, chatter right after the regulation was about fouling up 3. And we'll play a Rick Carlisle clip from, I guess it was about last month, probably about a month and a half ago, asked him that question, what's your philosophy on fouling up 3? Because it has been a popular topic with the Pacers here this season. At the end of the regulation, or at the end of the regular season, they had 2 instances against Chicago and Miami where they did that. I go back to Game 3 of that Bucks series. There was a golden opportunity to foul Brook Lopez up 3. They did not do it, and they survived, albeit Chris Middleton, of course, hit some heroic shots. So this has been a popular topic. First off, if I'm ranking issues, it's inbounding the basketball. Let me be very clear about it. That is number 1. If I want to go number 2 on the list of fouling up 3, what I disagreed with in that plan by the Pacers there late, Andy, was, why don't you switch everything? I felt like when Nesmith, I guess, I think McConnell was in the game, if I'm not mistaken. You had McConnell and Siakam involved in that play there where Boston, I think, set a pick maybe with Derek White to try and get Jaylen Brown free. And Jaylen Brown gets free. Siakam said it after the game. Siakam's like, I was late getting to him. And the plan was for the Pacers to foul. And the fact that Siakam gets there late, now he feels like he's either out of position or he's given Jaylen Brown the chance to try and even draw the foul. And Jaylen Brown, if you watch it, he catches and kind of gathers it and gets a little bit more into a shooting position. Obviously, it's an incredibly difficult shot that Jaylen Brown hits there. But I don't have as much of an issue in the fouling up 3. It's more of a, if you switch everything there, I think you have the better opportunity to, A, get right there and potentially foul right on the catch.
Right, or be on him.
Or you just don't give Jaylen Brown that chance to all of a sudden take that ball from the left side of his body to the right side. And again, Jaylen Brown hits an incredible shot, but that would probably be where more my issue is late.
Yeah, I'm with you. I tell you what, I got watching this game in the third quarter, KB. Well, watching the entire game, but in the third quarter, when the Celtics start to pull away, you're watching that game and you're thinking, okay, the Pacers, maybe just don't have it tonight. It's a couple days after the Knicks game and everything else. And so, I'm thinking, how hot takey is the show going to be today if, the Celtics kind of push away in the third quarter and they keep the Pacers at bay, if you will, in the fourth quarter. But, here's what gets lost in all of this. And this is what I hate about it, is that, the Pacers fought back, KB, multiple times in this game.
They took some punches and punched back.
They got punched at the very beginning. You got Boston people when it's 12-0 the first couple minutes of the game, the series is over and everything else. And we talked about, would it be rest versus rust? Well, the Celtics won the game, and even if the Pacers would have won last night, it wasn't rust. I mean, the Celtics came out firing on all cylinders. So you take a punch, you come all the way back. What was it? Halftime? Did they lead at halftime or was it tied?
Tied, yeah. Halliburton hits the shot to tie it at 64.
Halliburton hits the shot. It's tied at halftime. Then you take, what I thought was a haymaker in the third quarter, and you fight back, and you're watching this team fight back, and I'm sitting there watching it. I'm thinking, this team's going to win this game, and I feel like the correct take on this morning is this team not only leads 1-0, KB, but they can absolutely go to the NBA Finals. Like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm almost sitting there like honored watching how good they were playing and how much that they took the ebbs and flows of the game. And then, Turner gets the rebound with 10 seconds to go, and that was the scrum that ends the game. They get the missed layup. They get the Jason Tatum 12-footer, whatever it was, that rims out, and they get the rebound, and they get the ball, to Halliburton. And at that point, it's like 8 seconds. It's like, come on, guys. It's over. But, I mean, you mentioned the things. I'm trying to think my hierarchy. You had the Nesmith turnover with 27 seconds to go. And even though they didn't score, perhaps Boston then would have started fouling much quicker, and you would have got into a free throw battle. And who knows, maybe the Pacers win because of the free throw battle. And then the inbound turnover. To me, the inbound turnover and everything around it, not calling timeout before the inbounds, Nesmith not calling timeout, while you can see there's craziness.
Nembhard.
Right. Yeah, Nembhard. Pascal Siakam not getting the ball. The refs missing Jaylen Brown holding his jersey. I mean, you needed 4 things to go against you just in that play. And then we get to fouling up 3. They've done it at times. They haven't done it times. I know we got about a 2-minute sounder of back a month ago with the Miami Heat when they did foul Tyler Hero, and they end up winning that game. Carlisle put it on him. The players put it on them. More than 22 turnovers was the final tally.
Second
last
highest
night
of the season, 22 turnovers.
And obviously you get to overtime and you're fouling Tatum, you're giving him an and one, you're dribbling the ball off your leg and everything else. I think this team can bounce back. I think this team will bounce back. But when margins are this slim, this ain't the Knicks. And you gave one away last night. It's just, I don't know how you get over the feeling of it being a gut punch.
A couple things on the taking the punch, analogy that you brought up, because I couldn't agree with it more. You're down double figures in the first half. Boom. You punch back and get back in the game. You're down double figures there in the third quarter. You do it again. Andy, they had chances in overtime.
Oh, I know.
I mean, was anyone thinking that once the game got to overtime?
I mean, you're spot on.
You can make the argument for the first 4 minutes of overtime, the Pacers were the better team. I thought a sneaky play that we won't talk about a lot today, but deserves mention, was Aaron Nesmith's decision to challenge and commit a foul that ended up being a 6th. That was the Jason Tatum breakaway where Tyrese Halliburton looked like he was going to get a take foul. It almost looked like Caitlin Clark the other night.
Well, I think the refs missed that.
Right.
I mean, he held. What was it? Tatum around the
and as
stomach.
Crazy as it sounds, that would have been a free throw and the ball. I think that would have been better because when Nesmith goes off the floor there for a 6th foul, obviously Tatum makes the 2 free throws, but then you saw the and one Tatum got with Andrew Nembhard and T.J. McConnell trying to double him. I mean, that looked like you and me trying to guard Wembanyama. I mean, it just that I thought was a really critical play that, again, we probably won't talk about too much on that end. On the inbounds there late, you're obviously inbounding it from a kind of an awkward position where Nembhard is. I brought out the old stopwatch. I went back and watched that play because if you watch it, Nembhard starts to lunge.
Yeah, he does.
Almost like into the court of play. And he inbounded it by my very rough estimate.
Yeah, what did your stopwatch say?
I had it at 4.4 seconds.
Okay, all right. So he had 0.6 still on the clock.
So again, he is doing that in his head,
Sure.
of course, and he is thinking to himself, "Oh boy, I've got to get this in." And Rick Carlisle did say post game, that's the regret he has, not necessarily taking a timeout at that point. He thought he should have taken a timeout before the inbounds even occurred. You advance it. You then allow for your 5 guys to have a little bit more space to inbound the basketball. So, obviously, many items we can get to today. Damn, that is a kick in the you-know-what. Oh, God, that is
it's unbelievable.
It's squarely a kick in the you-know-what.
And, we're up early.
In the Richard.
If you're driving into work or, getting ready, listening to us, watching us on the YouTube stream, I don't know. You didn't go to bed last night.
No.
It took
the only saving grace is Jeremiah Johnson left me the St. John's shorts, and I've already put them on.
Yeah, I saw that you already put them on.
I'm wearing 2 pairs of shorts right now. I haven't done that since I was a junior in high school.
You got the old Rick Pitino shorts on today.
How great are these?
Those are nice. Those don't fit JJ.
Well,
I bet they fit him.
I
bet he just gave you his pair. Did you guys decide yesterday it was going to be St. John's? I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
Did
I texted him back.
Okay.
And he told me they might look a little.
Texted. Okay.
He goes, they might look a little Fab Five on you. I go, well, that's fine.
That's fine.
I gotta make sure the kids in the neighborhood know where the ballers are.
What does that mean?
Means he can ball.
That means I can ball. I got to hoop out back.
My mind goes elsewhere when people are talking about ballers in shorts.
So listen, the Neesmith, all the things that had to go wrong. The Neesmith turnover with about 27 seconds. Again, I only bring that up because at some point there, probably pretty soon, the Celtics were going to have to start playing the foul game, right?
I thought it was Halliburton dribbling off his leg. Am I thinking about a different play?
Well, it was Halliburton and Neesmith were on that left side there. I need to go back and look at the play. I know Neesmith, dove out of bounds. I don't know if he passed it up. I can't remember the bourbon last night. And then you had the inbound turnover, and you had the inbound timeout, or not calling the timeout, and then you had the fourth thing would be not calling the timeout before you get to the inbounds, which is what Carlisle talked about. And then you had the Siakam, and then you had the final shot. There are 6 things, and then I'll throw in, if you want, you mentioned switching everything defensively on the Jaylen Brown shot. I mean, Doris Burke on the broadcast did not like the way that the Pacers were aligned there defensively as well. Maybe thought they were protecting too much of the paint and not the three-point line.
Celtics didn't have a timeout there, so you knew that, and there were 6 seconds to go. They probably weren't going to go quick 2 on you there, but that I think that eliminated any thought of
if they had a couple timeouts, you go quick 2, you foul, there's 4 seconds to go.
You can advance
the ball. Right. So, there are, in my estimation, you could count 7 things that had to be chaotic in the final 27 seconds for you not to win this game. Again, I'll go back to the only positive is this team bounces back, and this series is not last series. The Boston crowd is not the Knicks crowd. The nastiness in the Garden
sounded like a morgue. Did ESPN not have the crowd mic on? I couldn't believe it.
The nastiness that the Knicks fan at MSG brought is not what you're getting with the Boston Celtics. And Boston doesn't want, this is probably why I feel the best. Boston doesn't want to punk you and play a tough physical style. This series, KB, is so different from what they came from. Obviously, the Celtics are a much more skilled team. We saw that. They want to play the style that is out there with the Pacers. They're okay doing that. They can hit different threes. So their guys can create. Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart need to have the majority of their stuff set up for him. There is no plotting with the basketball like you saw Jalen Brunson, but there's also not, the Knicks spent at least the first 5.5 games trying to punk the Indiana Pacers. You're not going to get that in this series. And when you start talking about possessions, a lot of possessions, up and down basketball, that's why I still think the Pacers are in this series. And that's the only positive I can give you, because if you're a Pacer fan this morning and you haven't went to bed, I can understand why. You got to be sick to your stomach.
Sadly, there's not much positivity when you look at Indy 500 weather a few days out.
Oh, no.
We will have a variety of racing-related guests here on today's program. We'll continue to update you. Did you guys see Tyler's tweet to us yesterday? He's flying in from Tampa.
I saw this.
Wanted our advice on whether to push back the flight. I mean, come on. That's like the most pressure I've ever felt in my life.
I don't want that smoke. I was like, I don't want this pressure.
Yeah, but he's not going to get penalized by the airline. I don't know his work life. I don't know his family life, if his family needs him back or not, or if he can take another couple days in
Simply relay information here. Again, I will do this routinely here leading up to Friday. The weather card day looks, I think, fine. Sunday, and again, albeit we are 4 or 5 days out, in gathering the percentages from our local weather people here, including weather.com, chance of rain on Sunday, 90, 50, 90, 85.
It's all about the time, too. What I'm worried about is it's looking like it might be in the afternoon, like 2, 3, 4 o'clock.
Well, you know what? What I do like is the rain chances are, Sunday, and then more Monday versus Saturday. Well, the green flag drops at what, 12:45?
Yep.
So we can just push the Saturday forecast more into Sunday. Hey, it could rain at 6 p.m. Start at 6 p.m. Unleash, skies. Feed our grass. Feed our plants.
Well, can I ask you this? What happens to all the cars that are going to have to be abandoned when they park on grass around IMS?
We will accept that for a clean 200 laps. Colts OTAs, our first viewing Anthony Richardson since last October. We'll chat a little bit about that as well. I'll be out there later today for that.
Yeah, we have a busy day. Mark Jane's going to join us coming up at about 7:40. On the other end, your morning check down. What did Rick Carlisle, what did Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, the players and coaches that were there last night, what did they have to say about the end of the game? We'll get to that next. It's a Wednesday, quite frankly, a sad Wednesday here as the Pacers down 0-1 in the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll talk about it until 10 o'clock with you. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We will cope with Michael Grady coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. Obviously, his Timberwolves playing tonight in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. So much to get to and catch up with one of our favorites in MG. Variety of racing guests, including Santino Ferrucci, but unfortunately, Andy Sweeney. A lot of talk, and pretty much all of it outside of that will be about the kick in the you-know-what last night.
Yeah, it's a sad morning. That's how I teased it, and boy, that's sure how it feels this morning. The Pacers, boy, they had a chance, played pretty good basketball, lost in overtime last night, 133-128. That's your final in the Garden in Boston. Let's get you some sound from last night. This is a clip that you mentioned earlier in the show, KB. Rick Carlisle post-game taking blame for the loss and talking about not calling a timeout before the Nemhard-Siakam turnover on the inbound.
This loss is totally on me. With 10 seconds in regulation, we should have just taken the timeout, advanced the ball, and found a way to get it in and made a free throw or two and ended the game. But it didn't happen. We made some other mistakes, but our guys just need to concentrate on fighting the way they fought in this game from start to finish, and we'll be back Thursday.
Obviously, it didn't happen. Jaylen Brown hits the three. The rest is history. Now, as for that three with Jaylen Brown, Rick Carlisle post-game talking about why did we not foul there. Now, KB, to set this up, he was asked, did you want to foul? He answers that and then kind of breaks down what he thinks happened with Siakam.
Yes, but he caught the ball and he was face up, so Pascal decided to lay off, which was, I understand, that's probably the right decision. You don't want to give up a 4-point play. Look, a lot of things had to go wrong for us and right for them. They did. And so, we got to own it, and we got to get ready for Thursday.
All right, last one. So here's Pascal Siakam postgame on why he didn't foul. What happened on that sequence where Jaylen Brown hits the three to send it to overtime?
I thought, as soon as I got to him, I was a little late because of the screen. He was going up, so I didn't want to do it, and then when I was going to do it, it was just a little too late. So yeah, it's just one of those where it's like if you have an opportunity to do it, you do it. But it was just a judgment call. Like I felt like he was going to this motion, like he had a pump fake. Like I didn't want to foul then, and it's a tough shot. I was in front of him. Maybe I could have contested it better, but it was just tough play.
My nitpick there would be switch everything. That would probably be the one critique I would have there. Late, I get that fouling can be pretty bang in that situation. But the turnovers. I mean, again, I go back to the Halliburton comment from postgame. He gets asked about a turnover afterwards, and his response is, which one? I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about the late game inability to just handle the ball. I mean, it was almost like a bit of time and score. Like if you could have just milked it and knelt it, to use a football term. Like, I think you come away with a victory, even if you don't hit every single free throw down the stretch and all of it. So, again, moral victories because so many guys, especially the starters, certainly McConnell, Toppin early on, contributed for you and made huge plays. I mean, that was game situation like none other with 5 minutes to go. And your guys, Nemhard and Nesmith, made some big plays, made huge plays, and yet to show for it, it's 0-1.
One quick thing. I blame Siakam the least out of all of this. That's how I feel. I mean, you mentioned, hey, let's switch so you don't put him in that situation. Siakam's in a bad spot because he gets there late. And when he gets there late, Jaylen Brown, and he knows this from the scout, Jaylen Brown can draw fouls. So the last thing he wants to do there when he's late is get a foul and send Jaylen Brown to the line, and then he'd be the biggest goof on the team if he did that.
I will be at Colts OTAs this afternoon. Again, how it works this time of year is the Colts started their OTA schedule yesterday. We get one viewing each week from a media standpoint, so that'll be later today. This is the first 11-on-11 work since the season ended for Anthony Richardson. It'll be the first 11-on-11 work since last October. The expectation is no restrictions for Anthony Richardson here this time of year. Again, it's not full pads, but it's the closest thing you get to somewhat of football here in the spring months. It's offense-defense, so having a little recap on that coming up tomorrow.
I have a question on this. Is this going to be the first time where we see how they handle Anthony Richardson?
The expectation is no restrictions. Again, it's not a lot of work. I believe there's only 2 11-on-11 periods, so don't act like Richardson's going out there and throwing 30 times in practice or anything like that. But yes, the expectation is he will be full go, and unless there's soreness after an OTA day, he is expected to be the guy leading that first-team offense.
Quickly, Major League Baseball, Reds winners. There you go, KB. Does that make you feel better? Does that make you feel better?
I can't even say that I really knew that happened.
You were dialed into a 2-0 Reds.
They got a good
Padres
pitching
game
effort, I believe, is what I saw.
Apparently they did. They won 2-0. Cubs
Good job.
winners. Good job, Mark.
Thank you.
Cubs winners 4-3 over the Braves. Cardinals and Orioles suspended yesterday at 1-1. They'll resume that game today at 12:15.
Fever tonight late. They will be out west, Seattle. Seattle does have several Indy connections. Mackenzie Holmes, we know, is doing her redshirt year after the knee issues that she had at IU. A couple Notre Dame products, and Skylar Diggins-Smith and Jewel Lloyd. 10 p.m. This is one of your WTHR games, so you will get simulcast there if you like to check out the Fever on that. And in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, T-Wolves favored by 4.5. At home.
What do you think about
Mavericks.
that line? 4.5. What do you think? It's a good line. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. I would go Minnesota in this series.
Yeah, I'm going to go Minnesota in this series and probably 6, although I could see it go 7. Just speaking of gambling, I mean, I think you look at last night just quickly with the Pacers and Celtics, that over-under was 220.5. Don't you have to start, Mark, we may need to start laying a couple coinage on that.
Okay.
Because both teams are going to be up and down the floor.
I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people I told yesterday. I thought the 10.5 line was ridiculous last night.
It was disrespectful.
I mean, I said it to you to end the show. I expect the Pacers to be right there at the end. Did I expect, of course, the pee down the leg episodes we saw in the final 30 seconds? No, I did not. But honestly, that was largely what I thought. I thought the Pacers would be able to throw some haymakers and hang in there. And now the question becomes psyche heading into Thursday. I mean, if you saw Jaylen Brown postgame, that was a pissed-off individual after the game. Like, he was – I mean, I watched him, with the ESPN crew on the floor. I watched him with – it wasn't Van Pelt. He was out. But I watched him with the SportsCenter crew. They've lost both game 2s so far in this series. So, certainly can the Pacers continue to do what they've done all year long, respond and fight? And then how does Boston react to, really being very fortunate they won that game heading into a game 2s, which have not been good to them this series?
And then speaking of IMS, nothing going on, track quiet yesterday. I know the rookie luncheon, a lot of people were out at the rookie luncheon around Radio 1.
And you know what? I will mention this, and again, we'll continue to monitor it as the week moves along, but a storyline with the guests we had to end the show yesterday, I will encourage everyone to check out the Kyle Larson podcast on our podcast feed. Weather impacts his decision-making.
Sure it does.
With this race. And, it sounded like Jake Query relayed that yesterday of, if there is some weather issues, it sounds like he'll go to Charlotte. He will go to the NASCAR race. So that is another layer to this that I think we will continue to keep an eye on. So hopefully things start to improve with what the forecast looks like for Sunday. But as you said, nothing on the docket today, nothing on the docket tomorrow. Carb Day does look pretty good. We'll have a variety of racing guests coming up.
All right, well, yes, we will. We'll have Santino Ferrucci is going to join us, Sam Schmidt as well. But coming up next, the voice of the Indianapolis 500, Mark James. He joins us here on this Wednesday, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Pacers.
Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Mark Jane's going to give us a break from the harsh reality of last night, and that was the Pacers blowing it late, played so well, and just numerous positives that you want to talk about, but it's hard to go moral victory, especially when you're playing the 1 seed, and those opportunities don't arise on a frequent basis. So Pacers will try to respond tomorrow night. Game 2 will be at 8 o'clock. And let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. He is the voice of the 500, the voice of IndyCar. You will hear him a whole lot come Sunday on these airwaves. Mark Janes joins us now. Mark, good morning to you.
Who needs national media with the coverage that you guys give the Indiana Pacers in the playoffs?
Well, thank you.
You're damn right.
Thank you for that. Yeah, screw Stephen A. Smith and company.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got us on these airwaves. Mark, I don't know what it says about me as a human, but one of my more exciting moments every year is when I dial you guys in on Sunday morning, and all of a sudden your voice is in my ears. Walk us through the schedule and what we will be getting pre-race from you and your wonderful team coming up on Sunday.
Well, I actually start putting the pre-race show together early to mid-April. I just want to make sure that we have some of the stories covered, and to give you a little insight, one of the elements that I'm particularly excited for everyone to hear. We kind of did it in advance to make sure that they had plenty of time to go over all the things that we want to cover. This is the 50th anniversary of Johnny Rutherford's first win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And, of course, JR was a longtime member of our radio network, and he and our former anchor, Paul Page, have become very close friends over the years. And so we'll have, as part of our pre-race show, a conversation with Paul Page and Johnny Rutherford, kind of recounting his 3 Indy 500 wins and his incredible connection to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and IndyCar. And, you know, I was privy to that conversation as it was happening, and I think it's something that a lot of folks will enjoy. We're also going to pay tribute to Gilles de Ferran, who his family lost in December, the 2003 champion. And I think the plan is to talk to something like 15 drivers out of the field of 33. But this is my 9th year as the voice of the 500, and one of the things that I did when I was privileged to take over that chair is I wanted to bring more of the pre-race festivities over the public address to our airwaves, because while there are 350,000 people who aren't there, there are literally millions who aren't. And I think by doing that, we kind of transport them to 16th and Georgetown and want to do everything we can to make sure that they feel like they are there. So
I love that move, by the way.
We have in store. Yeah, thank you. Those are some of the things we have in store for our pre-race show. And then, quite frankly, you know, everybody does prep in various different ways. I mean, I think Chris Denary will have 6 generations of every driver's family members, the way he prepares and everything, and their blood types and all of that stuff. That's how thorough Chris is with his preparation. And by the way, for him to jump in that chair, in that seat out there in turn 4 once a year and do what he does just speaks to his level of professionalism and preparation. But, you know, all of our guys prepare, and, you know, there's a lot of butterflies for all of us. And then, quite frankly, once the green flag drops, we really don't have anything pre-scripted or predetermined. I mean, it's live radio, and we treat it as such. That way, the way we call it and how we call it is done organically.
Voice of the 500, Mark Janes joins us here on the Wake Up Call on this Wednesday on the Payless Liquors hotline. Mark, we got to talk yesterday with Kyle Larson. It was a fantastic interview. We'll actually probably replay it coming up tomorrow. So, you know, he's 5th. He's row 2. His qualification, did anything stand out to you, and how well he qualified? How bigger of a story did it make Kyle Larson after he ended up in row 2?
Well, he's a generational talent. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, the comparisons are accurate with the multifaceted, multi-talented drivers that preceded him. You know, Tony Stewart and A.J. Foyt and Mario Andretti. I think they're accurate comparisons. And you know, this is not a sideshow. This isn't a novelty act. And for the first time, that Doug Rice and I, Doug, of course, our good friend who anchors the Brickyard 400 and is the president and anchor of Performance Racing Network, we were talking about this the other day. And if you go back to all of the predecessors in the effort to do the double, this is the first time that a driver has come here and his team from the other series is all in on this deal. I think I saw yesterday where Rick Hendrick is he's bringing 5 planes full of his race team to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway from the NASCAR world to support Kyle Larson in this effort and give them a chance to experience it. This has been 2 years in the making. This is not just some fly-by-night deal where everybody got together in April and said, hey, let's go run the Indy 500. I think everything has been done by Hendrick Motorsports and Errol McLaren to make sure that this is a successful venture. And based upon what I saw Monday in practice when they were in race trim, he's got pretty comfortable with that race car pretty quick. And a lot of things can happen, but it's not out of the question that Kyle Larson can win the Indianapolis 500.
He is the one and only Mark James, and he will be certainly in a lot of our ears coming up this Sunday as the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500 occurs. Mark, your historical perspective is always great. When you look at this year's field and you look at the starting grid, my eyes are immediately drawn to row 7. And I know that sounds kind of odd to say, but in that row, you have Marco Andretti making his 19th career start, Scott Dixon making his 22nd career start. That is the furthest back Dixon has ever started. And the one and only Helio Castroneves making his 24th career start. You ever seen a row like that, especially one so deep in the field?
No, there hasn't been. And if you want to add to the statistical elements of this that make this race so fascinating, is that if you go just behind them to rows 8 and 9, you have a combined total of 4 starts. And that's the fewest for 2 rows since we had a year, I believe, in the early 2000s where between 2 rows there was a total of 1 start by Milka Duno and 5 rookies. So that is interesting to compare and contrast that. And it's not out of the question, especially where Scott Dixon and Helio are concerned, that you get within the last 50 laps and suddenly you find themselves in contention. And I will say this, Marco Andretti has probably had the most quietly efficient month that Marco's ever had at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I mean, for you to think that he will be in contention over the last 50 laps of that race is not a stretch either. But yeah, that's an incredible amount of talent and experience and know-how at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in one row. It's really cool.
Mark, odd question here, but, this is not about anyone at the top. This is about, watching the coverage and listening to you. Marcus Ericsson, row 11, a lot's been made of him, and we know what kind of a driver and team that he has. When he pulled up on that 4th qualifying lap, when's the last time you've seen something like that? And, you're watching the sport, you love the sport, you broadcast the sport. What was going through your mind when you saw that? Usually you just don't see something like that.
Well, we certainly don't see it out of Marcus Ericsson, and we automatically assumed that it was a mechanical issue.
Right.
And you just don't see Marcus Ericsson make mistakes like that. I mean, he is about as calm and collected and as cerebral as any driver in the series. But gosh, I think it speaks to the level of pressure that you feel. I mean, Kyle Larson talked about this. He said, it's one thing to go out and have to put down 2 good laps or 1 good lap, depending on the form of racing. And Davey Hamilton, our driver analyst, and I have talked about this. I mean, this is unlike anything any driver will do anywhere else in the world. You have to be close to perfect for 4 laps. And sometimes, even the most talented, even the most accomplished drivers are going to bobble a little bit because as machine-like as they can be, they are still, after all, human beings. And nobody felt worse about that than Marcus Ericsson did. But, he was able to redeem himself, and as a result, he'll start the 108th Indianapolis 500. But, yeah, it was a strange set of circumstances for sure.
All right, Mark, you take the baton. Is it 11 a.m. network coverage begins for you guys?
Yeah, we'll have a pretty busy morning. We'll have several, media responsibilities, which, I try to get there between 5:30 and 6, and sometimes I go down on the pit wall, just kind of watch the place come to life, and then, we'll have media responsibilities throughout the morning, and then our production meeting at 10, and then when that's over, I usually try to find a quiet spot and just kind of set and kind of get, focused in, and then, we'll join our worldwide audience and have them join us at 11 o'clock, and we'll take you through the pre-race festivities. And the green flag's expected to drop around 12:45, and we can't wait. As you can tell, school's getting ready to start here in Monrovia.
Look at this. Shout out to the students flocking in.
It's got to be the last day, isn't it? Got to be
at Monrovia.
Towards the end.
Tomorrow's the last day. Yeah, tomorrow's the last student day, and once I'm done with Carb Day responsibilities, I have to come out here. We're going to live stream our graduation, so it's an exciting time here too. So
I love that. You are the Patrick Mahomes to the broadcast coming up on Sunday, Mark. No one does it better. Cannot wait to have you in our ears coming up on Sunday. Hope to run into you on Carb Day, Mark. Thank you.
Well, you guys are good friends. Thanks for all you do for us.
That's Mark Jaynes right there, the voice of the 500, the voice of IndyCar. A nice break from the harsh reality from last night. I won't, and I don't think we can harp on it too long, but I cannot stress how thoroughly impressed I was by Miles Turner's shot making, Andy, last night, especially in the first half. I mean, there was a moment where Turner takes a step back three with Halliburton wide open next to him and just drills it. And then, there was a moment there late in regulation. I want to say Neesmith maybe had an and one. Nemhard had like a pull-up jumper. I'm like, final 5 minutes of the game, Tatum, Brown, Holiday, Derek White, all these guys, and everybody on the Pacers made a play down the stretch.
Well, Tatum was like, 2 of 10 down the stretch?
Yeah,
fourth quarter?
Tatum needed that overtime, frankly, to kind of get, him back on track there. And I think the Neesmith, foul trouble, played into that, certainly. But I wish I could harp on it more and focus on it more, but it's hard to go there. And again, maybe you can bottle that up for the rest of the series. But boy, that was just outstanding by so many different Pacers until all hell broke loose in the final, 30, 40 seconds.
Isn't it crazy? We can sit here. I almost feel like, and this is nothing against you because I'm feeling it myself. We talked about the end of the game, and you talk about how they're not overwhelmed are the Pacers, and we feel like they can be in this series. And I guess those are the next topics we can talk about, because I know nationally, I mean, the Pacers have got some respect, but many people believe now the series is quote unquote over because they gave game one away. I almost sit here, and it's the wrong thing. I'm almost speechless, or I feel like, KB, and I know we have new listeners all the time. Don't you feel like we're repeating ourselves a lot? Just that type of game, the end of that type of game and that type of loss, like it just keeps running over in your mind. That's just a game the Pacers should have won, and they should be up 1-0.
Yeah, I thought J.J. Redick said it really well late. The Pacers, and the game obviously was premature. He goes, the Pacers didn't steal this one.
Yeah.
They earned this one.
They earned this one. I
and
actually wrote that down.
They did with the routine punching back. And again, you got to 5 minutes to go, and it was almost kind of wild. It was like a movie scene. Tie game, and the starters are back in. It was, almost that theatrical music should have played. Hell, it would have been better than the Garden crowd last night. And then you just whipped. I mean, your starters outplayed their starters for, 4.5 minutes.
Like you're not scared. Like you sit here, and it's stupid. You're down 0-1, but you're not scared of Boston at all. But you still lost that game.
Right. And again, that's
what's killer.
This is not New York and Milwaukee, where it was like, okay, they don't have the ammo, I think, to compete for 6 or 7 games in a series. Boston, especially if and when they get Porzingis back, you just feel like they're a better equipped. Like, letting one squander against Milwaukee and New York, you feel like you can make up for it.
Right.
You let one get away from you on the road against Boston, you now play with more fire.
All right, coming up on the other side, there's an item I disagree with that was said last night by an Indiana Pacer. We'll get to that. But coming up next, Santino Ferrucci will join us. He's confident. He's brash. We love it. We'll talk with him next on this Wednesday on The Fan.
Juicy Juice is 100% juice.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, no need to waste time. We know our next guest won't be wasting any time as he will start up at the front, and he will get to the front coming up on Sunday for the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500. We've adopted him as our favorite driver here on the morning show on 107.5 The Fan. The one and only, the ever-candid Santino Ferrucci joins us now. Santino, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We are wonderful. Your level of confidence heading into Sunday is where?
It's pretty good. I mean, I feel good about our race car. I feel good about everything else that we're doing. It's, we're in a hell of a lot of better position than we were Thursday last week.
Santino, this is my first time covering the Indianapolis 500, so I've been out there, watched you qualify and everything else, but the guys here on the show, they said, we got to have Santino on because he's confident, okay? I don't know if you're cocky, but you're confident nonetheless, and I love that. Where did you get that confidence from?
Dude, I mean, it's kind of like that Ricky Bobby line, you know? You just wake up in the morning, you know? As everybody knows in Talladega Nights, and, you know, you just got to be the best
excellence.
there
Is that the phrase?
You can say that. You can say piss excellence.
I don't know what's acceptable for radio, man.
Yeah, honestly, you could really say anything, and we'll have our producer be just on the dumb button. Santino Ferrucci, pissing excellence here on this Wednesday morning, starting on the outside of row 2. He joins us here. What did you learn last year, not only starting up front, but, I mean, you were up front all day long. You know, obviously your history at the 500 has been, I mean, you've kind of sliced and diced your way through the field. So what did you learn last year about, you know, being a legit dude qualifying and then, you know, for really the entire 200 laps?
Man, it's one of those things to where being up front, I wish we started tuning the balance a little bit sooner and a little bit more aggressive earlier in the race when the pit stops are a little less important. So I think that's one of those things I'll keep in mind this year, just to stay on top of the car a little bit better. And man, it's just fun being out front. I mean, being able to lead laps and do everything that we did. Honestly, we came up short last year, but I don't think it was anything we did wrong on the team side.
Do you like starting outside, or do you not really care where you're at within your row?
Oh, I'm a lot starting sixth is a lot better for me. I'm not going to lie. Starting fourth last year on the inside of row 2, you get bottled up from the front guys because they just want to tuck in and roll. I'm happy to be slinging it around the outside. So trust me, I'll be a little bit more in my comfort zone coming to green.
Santino Ferrucci with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Again, he'll start row 2 along with Rossi and Larson. And not to just, I'm sure you've been asked about this. You may be tired of being asked about this, but Kyle Larson trying to pull the double with NASCAR and the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. Have you had any conversations with him? And I guess how interested are you to be starting next to him? He's a guy obviously not running week in, week out in IndyCar like you are.
Man, honestly, he's such a good racer. He's a good friend of mine. You know, I've hung out with him a ton at the Chili Bowl, at the NASCAR events and stuff like that. He's a good dude. I mean, he's figuring it out quick. You know, obviously he is a rookie, but he'll get the hang of it real fast. I was watching him in race trim on Monday. You know, he's obviously the awareness that you have in the IndyCar is a little bit different than the NASCAR stuff. The incoming rates and closing rates are different. And, you know, you can see that he was getting caught off guard just a little bit here and there, but it wasn't like a big deal. But, no, it'll be – honestly, I'm looking forward to starting next to him and racing with him because it'll just be fun, man. It's like racing with – you know, obviously he's a good competitor to be with, but, you know, he's probably one of my better friends in the field. And, yeah, I can't wait to be trading places.
He's our favorite. He's the one and only Santino Ferrucci, again, starting on the outside of row 2, pissing excellence here with us on this Wednesday morning, which we need after pissing down the leg last night.
Man, you're never going to drop that one.
Yeah.
How much of the game did you watch last night, Santino?
I watched all but up into overtime.
He'd had enough. I guess it's better than Ryan Bowen turning off with 10 seconds to go, thinking the Pacers had won the game. Santino, very rare to see one team across the front row. That is Team Penske. Do you believe there is a big gap to those three cars, if at all?
No. I think that, obviously all of our cars have pace. Qualifying stuff is just a little bit different than racing. Once you're in the race car, it's definitely different. The balance is different when you're in the draft and running behind other cars. So I don't think it's as big of a deal. Honestly, I just want to tuck in behind them and let them burn their fuel off and just kind of lift and coast. So and start saving and being good. I mean, there's no need to race those guys until I want to let them race themselves all the way up till lap 150.
Santino Ferrucci with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. He'll be starting 6th, row 2. He's got the number 14 Chevy AJ Foyt Racing. We appreciate him joining us on this Wednesday morning. I've asked probably 5 or 6 drivers this. How much do you envision yourself winning this race? And good God, man, if you ever won, if you won on Sunday, I should say, do you know how you would celebrate? Because I would imagine a guy like you would have a pretty good celebration.
We need to be there.
Man, dude, I can't imagine winning this race. It's one of those things to where I feel like I can do it. I know I can do it. I know I'm good enough to do it. I know we have a car that's good enough to do it. We're just going to wake up Sunday morning, be thankful that we're racing inside this beautiful speedway in the glorious AJ Foyt Homes for Troops 14, man, for a great cause. There's nothing cooler than driving the American flag car on Memorial Day weekend, and we'll just see what the day gives us. And, dude, for that lucky car that wins it and first across the line on Sunday, I'm pretty sure we're going to load up a couple of jets and go out to Vegas. I don't think there's any other way to celebrate.
You're damn right.
That is outstanding. It is an awesome, awesome looking car, as it was last year for Santino Ferrucci here on Memorial Day weekend. Just in general, race-wise, I don't know how much Monday painted this picture for you. How racy, how much passing do you think it'll be compared to recent years?
Man, it's real interesting. So Firestone changed the tires on the left-hand side because obviously we're looking forward to going to the hybrid system. So they're making sure that they don't have any tire issues. But doing that, at the start of the year, thinking that we're going to get the hybrid, they took away some of the grip. So on the ovals, it's a big way to change how your racing is between other cars. Is you change the left-hand side compounds. You go way softer, you get way more grip, you get a little bit better racing, way stiffer for durability. Racing gets harder, car balance gets a lot harder to find. I mean, it's going to be tough. If it's hot out, it might be pretty in line, but the thing with the balance right now, though, is it's very easy to lose the car. So, you saw a lot of close calls on Monday. I expect the race to be just like that. It's going to be tough.
Santino, good luck, man. We can't thank you enough for every year you seemingly coming on here, providing so much candor and just being yourself. And I hear it from fans all the time. They're like, wow, listening to him, all of a sudden he is a fan favorite for them. So good luck on Sunday. We can't wait. And hopefully we're talking to you Monday morning celebrating that win.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me on. I always enjoy it. So y'all have a great one. And, yeah, try to not get a little too drunk before the race kicks off.
We won't. No, we're going to be partying like we're going to Vegas afterwards, Santino.
Hey, look, that sounds good, man. That's the goal. That's the plan.
Pissing excellence with Santino Ferrucci right there on the Payless Liquors hotline outside of row 2 coming up on Sunday. Again, he was up there.
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellent.
He was up there all last year, and honestly, at those late restarts, he had a legit shot. So
he's great, man.
Always love the conversations with him.
He's great. Speaking of urinating excellence, I actually knew a guy that used that term.
What a transition.
But he actually used that term. It wasn't like funny Ricky Bobby or racing things. He actually used that term, and I love it. There's so many drivers like, I don't know what I'm going to do if I don't know what I'm going to do if I win the Indianapolis 500. Ferrucci knows. We're getting we're getting jets. We're going to Vegas.
And you know what? I loved, obviously it's not jets to Vegas, but I loved Joseph Newgarden's reaction last year. I mean, just the raw emotion. Remember asking him that the Monday after we had him on of no, I know there's a little, gap here in the fence right at the start finish line.
Right.
And I'm going through that and I'm celebrating with the fans, and you just see it. Like,
I love it.
That, to me, tells you everything that you need to know. It's the raw emotion. It's the actions, all of it. I'm simply here to relay info, right?
Oh, boy. What info are you relaying? I'm worried. I mean, you started out this morning with your brother going to bed with 10.1 seconds on the clock in the Pacer game, so go ahead.
Derek has sent me a weather forecast on Wednesday morning for Sunday.
Okay.
He's got 1.35 inches of rain for Sunday. If I'm reading this map correctly,
get out of here, Derek.
We're going to have to dive into our meteorologist guest booking here, I think, coming up the next couple days. It looks like the rain is starting after noon. Now, the accuracy, 96 hours outside of race day. I don't know if I believe that pinpoint accuracy of it, but I will reiterate this. We'll continue to update you. We'll continue to provide information. The good news, and I'm trying to be glass half full, I'm trying to be optimistic, what I'm seeing is more of rain Sunday into Monday, so we just need to push it further. If this rain says it's not starting until afternoon, we just got to push it, 4 more hours.
Yeah, what's afternoon? Is it 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock?
I mean, according to the map, it says just after 12 o'clock, which obviously would not be ideal.
That's not great.
But if we can push it a little bit further, like we all can sit on your respective porches and have a little dinner, one more, and watch it rain at 6 p.m., 7 p.m.
We either need it later in the night, or, would we even settle for 10 o'clock?
No. Pre-race festivities are too important. And that's chaos, people getting in the track. No. That's that. No, I know I'm being greedy with those statements. Takes a lot to dry the track. No. We don't need a drop of rain until 5:30.
I need to look this up. Come on, you can take coolers in. Can you take an umbrella in to IMS?
Don't believe so.
Or do you have to? I'm thinking. What am I thinking of? It's not a parka.
Poncho.
Poncho. Do you have a poncho? Do the Bowens have ponchos right now?
We do not own ponchos.
You don't own a poncho?
No.
I know I have 2 or 3 ponchos. I do. I have 2 or 3 ponchos. I don't know what they're from. Probably football games.
You
at some
imagine
point.
300,000 umbrellas in that place?
You better get a poncho too.
Last night, of course, so much to point to late. I think, Andy, you and I both side on the turnovers more than decision-making of fouling up 3 as the biggest reason why the Pacers blew that one there late. My issue with the final play was the Jaylen Brown shot was I thought you should have switched everything. I think if you switch everything, you make the inbounds pass for Drew Holiday even more difficult. It's a hell of a pass by Holiday. But Siakam was late. Siakam said it after the game. Because of the pick, I'm late getting Jaylen Brown. So you let a cross-court pass to the corner happen in that situation. If you switch everything, if that ball gets tipped out of bounds, now they're throwing it in a now they have it even in a worse spot to try and inbound it without any timeouts after that. But I wanted to make sure we went back to this audio clip because if you remember towards the end of the regular season, Andy, the Pacers fouled up 3 on 2 different occasions.
Yes, they did.
At home within about a month stretch. The first time, they fouled DeMar DeRozan late. What did DeRozan do? Makes the first, misses the second. Chicago gets the offensive rebound. DeRozan ends up hitting a jumper to force it in overtime. Like the worst foul up 3 situation you could imagine. Fast forward a month. Same exact situation. Almost like the same exact time on the clock. The Miami Heat and Tyler Hero inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The Pacers foul up 3 again. Hero, I think he made the first and then lane violation on the second. The Pacers survived that one. So I wanted to make sure we asked Rick Carlisle about his overall philosophy. So this was Rick Carlisle about a month and a half ago on his general approach fouling up 3. Coach, I feel like we see it a little bit more in the college game, but in the last couple of weeks, twice you've been in a situation where do you foul up 3? We saw it, of course, with that Chicago game a couple weeks ago, and then again on Sunday with Miami. How much is that like a debate with your staff, or has that kind of always been your locked-in principle of we will foul up 3, whatever, given X amount of time left on the clock?
Well, there are always a certain set of factors that you have to consider. One thing is, do you have the ability to make the judgment call on screening, or excuse me, fouling on the catch, facing away from the basket, not in the shooting motion. I mean, we've seen over the years, it's always a nightmare, with guys like Kobe Bryant, who's so clever, so crafty that he would just angle his body, and on the catch he would be turning and shooting, and you had to be very, very aware. Otherwise, you'd foul him in the act of shooting, and then the guy might make a shot, and you'd give up 4 points, or something like that. So that's one thing. The other thing is, do you have a good enough rebounding team? So, the other night, in the Chicago game, we put 5 big guys out there. We had a ball that caromed off there, and Obi couldn't get his hands on it, knocked it out of bounds, and they got it back and scored. And so now we end up in overtime. The other night, they had a violation, and so it was our ball, but we did a pretty good job of blocking out, et cetera. So, it's not as simple as just, hey, you foul up 3, you're good, you're automatically good. It just doesn't always go that way. There's a certain time threshold. If there's too much time on the clock, it's something that's not in the cards for us. So, you got to be somewhere under 10 seconds. I don't want to get into the whole thing, but anyway, it worked out the other night. It's special teams in basketball is exactly what it is, and you've got to spend time on it, and you've got to know all the risk factors as well. But it worked out in the Miami game, and all was good.
Yeah, so he says there you got to be under 10 seconds. Again, the ball was inbounded on that Celtic timeout with 8.1. Jaylen Brown made it. It took 2 seconds, 2.1 seconds. There were 6 seconds on the clock after Jaylen Brown. Listen, let's just say what it is.
And the plan was to foul, by the way, just to make sure.
In fact, let's hear from Carlisle on that. Carlisle last night mentioned that he was asked straight up, was the plan to foul? He says yes, and then he gives his answer.
Yes, but he caught the ball and he was face up, so Pascal decided to lay off, which was, I understand, that's probably the right decision. You don't want to give up a 4-point play. Look, a lot of things had to go wrong for us and right for them. They did. And so, we got to own it, and we got to get ready for Thursday.
I give Siakam the least amount, this is me, the least amount of grief out of all these other things. The turnovers, the multiple times, whether it be Nembhard or Carlisle, to call a timeout down the stretch. To me, Siakam, and then you mentioned this, they didn't switch on everything.
That's my biggest issue with the play.
So Siakam is late, and even Doris Burke and J.J. Redick on the broadcast on ESPN last night were talking about this, like, hey, they need to be guarding the three-point line a lot more than they are, and perhaps that was something, maybe the Carlisle will talk about. They meet the media today, whatever it may be. But the fact that they didn't switch puts Siakam in a terrible spot. It put him in a terrible spot because he thought, I'm too late to foul, and he also knows Jaylen Brown's game. Jaylen Brown is good at drawing fouls. I mean, he is. Yeah. That is a part of his game. A lot of good shooters.
We saw that here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse earlier this year.
You absolutely did. So in his mind, and if you watch the play in real time, it is a split second of a split second, but the reality is they should have had that planned out to where they didn't get caught in a screen, to where they didn't get caught defensively, to where they were guarding the three-point line better, to where Siakam then could make a clean foul. So I understand he didn't want the 4-point play. He also did not want to give 3 free throws, and then you look like a buffoon. You look like the village idiot if you go do that. In college, listen, in the NBA, let me go back. In the NBA, I am very much a foul when you're up 3 because everybody can make a 3. The Pacers can throw it in, and all the guys can make a 3, other than kind of Siakam. In Boston, you throw it in, and all those guys can knock down a 3. In college basketball, not everybody can knock down a 3. So if you let one fly from 25 feet, I understand it. But in the NBA, you have to foul because every one of those guys that can touch the ball can go up, can rise up, and can knock down a 3.
That's where I guess I'm a little confused on the not switching, because I understand the rationale behind if you're not going to foul, you want Jaylen Browns and the Jason Tatums of the world to shoot over length. Siakam, of course, I mean, hell, he's probably taller than Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, he's 6'8", 6'9".
Or at least just as big. So, and you saw it. I mean, Brown, that was a hell of a shot that Brown made. But if the plan is to foul, which is what the Pacers were planning to do, then why not switch everything so you can foul right away?
Right away.
You just want guys stuck on glue.
Right.
I mean, you do not want guys to breathe. And at the very least, and if you go back and literally kind of still shot that play as Drew Holiday's inbounding the ball, Siakam is picked very well by Derek White. And Siakam mentioned after the game, he goes, I got there late. So you allow the pass to get in. You allow Brown to gather and kind of change it from the left side of his body to the right side, which then he can rise up. Again, the bigger issue for me, the turnovers. And I thought they were self-inflicted turnovers. I thought you threw pick sixes and you didn't realize guys were there. You dribbled it off your leg. You had the inbounds pass. The other one, I think Halliburton just simply dribbled it out of bounds when Holiday was guarding
the
him.
one where he fell into ESPN.
Yeah.
You know one thing we haven't talked
Those were the
about?
bigger issues because those were the self-inflicted. Again,
agreed.
A lot had to happen for Brown to hit that shot. My bigger problem is just, peeing down the leg with the old turnovers.
Yeah, I am not going to get on Siakam too much. Out of all the things that happen, again, Nembhard not calling the timeout, Carlisle not calling the timeout and advancing the couple turnovers, the chance they could have got Boston into a little bit more of a foul situation with about 27 seconds to go. The one thing we haven't talked about, KB, we haven't really harped on is Tyrese Halliburton at the end of the game or at the end of regulation. The shot that he took. He had for a split second, and I need to go back during the timeout here, during our commercial break, and look who didn't guard him. Was it Derek White who kind of had his back turned for a split second?
Sounds right. White or Tatum, yeah.
I think it was.
I think Halliburton was stunned he was that open.
I think he was. So Halliburton could have taken probably a couple steps, and it would have been a long three, but it would have been a wide open shot. And guys make that shot, and he makes that shot, and he didn't take that shot. Instead, Boyle on the call, Mark, you'll play that next hour. It's like, oh, now he's in a world of trouble. Then you're taking a shot that has almost no chance of going in. I'm with you. I thought he was surprised he was that open. But in the end, he went from a wide open, deep shot to one that was a little bit closer, falling out of bounds to where defenders draped on him to where he doesn't have a chance. To me, that was, again, when you add the not calling a timeout, not following, not calling another timeout, defensive alignment, a couple different turnovers. You throw in as well another goof that you had was not getting a shot worth anything for the last shot of regulation. We need not forget that because that could have been a much better shot.
A little over an hour, Michael Grady going to join us. Ton to get to with MG, so always enjoy that conversation as his T-Wolves start the Western Conference round of the finals here coming up. Game 1 tonight. They're a 4.5-point favorite. The contingency plan for Kyle Larson. That's a question we'll throw Sam Schmidt's way coming up. The co-owner of Arrow McLaren here in a few. We'll see if the weather has impacted any of that decision-making. Plenty more on the Pacers front to get to here in a few.
Well, can I just interject? And we didn't do any build-up, nor should we do any build-up, but I'm excited to talk with Sam. You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because I'm going to be an Arrow McLaren guy.
Oh,
that's going to be my team.
Wow,
is that okay to everybody?
If I announce that the papaya is that correct on the color?
It has nothing to do with
Little
anything.
Gas needs some papaya onesies.
I was going to go with Rossi anyway. Okay, then I started being a track rat, over the last week or so.
Yeah,
and I said these are going to be my guys, and that's when I texted
full team or just individual driver.
I mean probably full team, but Rossi will be the top guy there. And
Did you order the jumpsuit
not
so you can match them?
But I may have some merch on the way. I may not get here by time for the Indy 500. I have to buy something for $75 out there.
Go to the pop-up tent, the Arrow pop-up tent.
$75 hats. But Mark, this is where I messaged Jake Query and I go, do they have some NWO to them? And that's where Jake did not know who the NWO was.
I mean, that's insulting.
Yeah,
I heard you guys talk about that yesterday.
Disgusting.
That's in his wheelhouse, like you said. He was in his.
I was going to say,
20s
anyway.
It feels like the age. I should check there.
Much, but
pro wrestling was king back then.
Let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown. Omaha! On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, let's jump into it. 133-128. That's your final game one Eastern Conference Finals. Boston takes the 1-0 lead. A heartbreaker, gut punch, however you want to put it, for the Pacers. End of regulation. We just talked about it there. Let's hear from the parties involved. Head coach Rick Carlisle on Tyrese's shot at the end of regulation.
I don't want to get into the exact play and what was supposed to happen. They did a good job guarding it, pressuring it. Ty obviously had to make something happen and ended up in a tough spot. But he did get a shot up, which is a positive. But we never should have been in that situation.
It is a positive. He did get a shot up, not a very good one, but like Carlisle says, never should have been in that situation. Now, as for Halliburton, he was asked about it, obviously, after the game. Here's what he had to say about that shot.
That's replayed in my head 100 times already, and it'll replay, after I get out of here, but I can't dwell on it. I felt like that was probably the look for me to shoot, and wish I did, but I didn't. And we had to move on. In overtime, we were right there. Just didn't get enough stops when need be. I turned it over down there, down the stretch. But we were right there to win the game still in overtime. So, it happens, and I learned from it moving forward.
Man, I thought Halliburton played really, really well.
He did.
Until all of that. I thought his quote afterwards, it summed it up pretty accurately, was asked about the turnover late. He responded, which one? There was some just uncharacteristic beyond belief from Tyrese Halliburton. He was assertive. He hit some big shots in the quarter, everything. Brutal. So Pacers try to rebound tomorrow. Game 2, 8 o'clock. All right, Fever back in action tonight. That is 10 o'clock out west. Seattle, who's not very good. So some opportunities here with Seattle and L.A., even though they are out west. That will be also on WTHR. Again, 10 o'clock tip for their first Western road trip of the season. And happy 22nd birthday to Anthony Richardson.
Oh,
Very
nice.
Fittingly.
How about that?
He will get his first 11-on-11 work in front of the media since last October. So nothing earth-shattering in terms of what happens at OTAs, but it is offense-defense. It is new compared to what he has been doing. So we're looking forward to that later this afternoon.
All right, coming up after the break, part owner Errol McLaren, Sam Schmidt. He has a chance to win the 500 on Sunday. We'll talk with him next. It's a Wednesday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The biggest party on dirt is
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Well, I'll admit the breaks from the harsh reality of last night and the kick and the you-know-what have been much, much needed here on this Wednesday morning. We began that with Mark Jane's last hour, the ever-entertaining Santino Ferrucci earlier this hour, and a man that has raced in the Indy 500 and co-owner of Arrow McLaren Racing. He is on the Payless Liquors hotline right now. He is the one and only Sam Schmidt joining us on this Wednesday morning. Sam, always enjoy hearing your voice. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys.
Sam, can you speak?
I don't know if I want to follow Santino, but I'll take it.
Yeah, he was offering the phrase of pissing excellence is how he would describe himself. I don't know if you're ready to follow that up.
Yeah, I'm too old for that.
When it goes into being a part of ownership here in the month of May, I'm kind of curious. Can you speak to the importance of this month? I don't know. It's probably rather obvious to you, someone that crunches those numbers, but maybe to the average fan, how vitally important is this month in terms of owning?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge to everybody. I mean, this is, I think, the reason a lot of people get into this sport in the first place is Indy 500, and to some extent the championship's a second thing that in line that you want to win. But the guys and gals on the team put so much effort in this race. I don't think that all the fans know. I mean, literally every car that went up there and qualified last weekend was being rubbed on and babied for the last 8 months. You twist test all the chassis, you dyno all the uprights. Everything on those cars is the best of the best in the shop across 10 chassis. You pick the best 4. It goes out there and hopefully gets the job done. And I think our guys did a pretty good job this month. But to your point, it's mega for the partners. It's really big for the team.
Sam, you mentioned all the work that goes into this, and then on Saturday, you guys had some drama. You guys had a little bit of troubles mid-afternoon, and you still didn't have a car that had qualified as of yet. Then, boy, you come back and you see what happens with Rossi and Larson, and then Pato Ward just the row behind in 3, and even Ilott, who we had on last week, is sitting there in row 5. How was that? Can you take us through your thinking and your emotion on Saturday as you guys had some issues and then you rebounded and you qualified pretty damn well?
I mean, looking back at it, I think it speaks to the overall strength of the team, and that these planning things were not just an Arrow McLaren thing. There was 6 different teams that faced them, and I think it was a combination of the downshifts and the calculation Chevy put in there to give us the most horsepower, and we could not have anticipated that yet. They didn't get all pissed off and start throwing things. They just went back and regrouped and realized they had more time later in the day, and used it as a test run, and I think went out there and got the job done. But to your point, it wasn't smooth in the morning, but I think the engineering squad, drivers, everything made the best out of that situation and came out with a good result.
He's the one and only Sam Schmidt, again, part owner of Arrow McLaren Racing, as Andy just laid out there. Several candidates to win this race. Certainly the Kyle Larson storyline, well documented, Sam. We had him on yesterday. I really appreciated the insight he gave us and what he's trying to attempt here coming up on Sunday. What has struck you the most about seeing Kyle Larson up close and personal here over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think everybody who watches racing at all knows that he's probably a once-in-a-generation type of driver, a la AJ Foyt, Tony Stewart. These guys can drive multiple formats on pavement, dirt. You even look at his record when he sort of took the year off in NASCAR, and I think he went out and did 100 midget, sprint, winged and non-winged dirt, asphalt. I think he won 60 of them, which, is just insane. And so that's great. We knew he was good. I've been trying to put this deal, together for a couple years, and Mr. Henrik, Jeff Gordon, they just, I think they're really loving it now. And I think, getting to spend more time with Kyle, he's just a really down-to-earth, good guy. He's got 3 kids and wife, and he does all this stuff, but he's just really down to earth. He's not some prima donna as we've maybe had a few of those in the past in these one-offs. And I think, I think he's truly here to do well. He's not just here to drive around and do the double. And I think he even has his sights set on Tony's double, because I think Tony did like 7th here and 4th in the 600, and I think he's probably got that in the back of his mind. But we all know how stronger the competition is now. Level of teams, level of drivers. These guys doing this thing all season, at least 27 of them. It's really, really tough. And even what he's accomplished so far, the second row is really unbelievable.
Tony, Sam, you said Tony Stewart, and all of a sudden my head started to go there. Sam, I don't want this to be the case at all, but you guys would probably be naive not to have contingency plans in place. If Mother Nature rears her very, very ugly head and impacts things on Sunday, the plan is what with Kyle Larson?
And I think we still need to talk about what is the final plan. We've been talking about, 3 or 4 different scenarios. And as you know, I don't think we can get too far over our skis in predicting the weather here, because it changes so rapidly every day. But, I do know, obviously, his leadership of the points and in the NASCAR championship is paramount to those partners and the team. And, to go into the playoff series over there with the leader, you get like an extra 15 points, and, that's who they work for all their lives. So I would tend to believe that would, ultimately have the priority at some point during the day. But, the race hasn't been delayed in a long time, and we're going to keep praying it goes that way this week, because I think the fans deserve something like this. I think, the sponsors and the partners that have poured a lot into it do, and I want to see him complete both ends of it and do really well. So that's positive thinking. If positive thinking has anything to do with it, that's where we're at.
Positive thinking, that's what you need heading into the Indianapolis 500. Sam Schmidt with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. What has Tony Kanaan brought to your team, and is it still up in the air, if he could climb in one of the cars on Sunday?
I know he'd love it. Ironically, I had to jab him a little bit, because that was his chassis last year that Kyle drove, and Kyle drove it faster than he did. So I don't think he's going to live that down. Otherwise, actually, he's just patting himself on the back for being a really good teacher. But no, it's been an amazing lift from just a driver perspective. He's full time. He's on it. He knows everybody in the paddock. He knows every driver. He knows their tendencies, and so I think that's been just immeasurable, value to the team and to Kyle throughout this month, and just throughout the process. We always had to navigate some driver drama throughout the year and try to figure out who to put in the car, and just a lot of last minute stuff we're hoping not to have to deal with, but what we have. So it's great to have somebody here in Indianapolis with boots on the ground that just understands the market and everything that's going on. But I wouldn't put it past him if that had to happen on Sunday.
He's great. Sam Schmidt, of course, raced in the Indianapolis 500 and has done so much for racing and many other endeavors in his life, and he's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline, part owner of McLaren Racing. Paddle Ward, I don't know, we started off the interview talking about Santino Ferrucci. I don't know if the fire and the personality, if you see any similarities there between those two, but certainly he has been up there late in races at the 500 here in recent years. How would you describe Paddle Ward as a driver and maybe his growth to survive 500 miles coming up?
Yeah, I think he's come a long way. I think he's still, we sometimes describe him as 25 going at 13 from a emotion standpoint and a no filter standpoint. But I think that's what the fans like about him. And, as long as he can keep that live and real, more power to him. I think he's definitely got the talent to win this thing. A couple of years ago, he showed an overwhelming amount of maturity and patience and not sticking it in there on Marcus Ericsson. And then, last year, not so much, and wish we would have had a little more patience. But I think I think his head's in a good place. I think, obviously he desperately wants to win this thing, and Penskes have definitely upgraded their program quite a bit this year, and that's going to be the primary competition for everybody. But long race, and we just got to stay in that top 5 all day, and I think he'll definitely be in the mix.
Sam, we'll end with this. I know it's been a little bit more of a popular topic here in recent months, but there's been chatter about, guaranteed spots into the 500 for the full-time, full series entries. Do you think that is something that should be there with IndyCar and having the full-time entries get guaranteed spots into the 500?
I think there's, a lot of things that could be sort of answered with this charter type program, and that could be one of them. I think, for a long time, the only value in an IndyCar team has been the price of its assets. And so I know how much firsthand how much IndyCar owners put into this thing beyond just money. And I think the charter system or some type of thing like that where it would create more value, and also obviously guaranteed spot in Indy 500 would create more value for a team. Anything to do that, I think is a good step forward.
Sam, we can't thank you enough. Always enjoy our conversations. Hope your health is doing well, and looking forward. I think obviously you don't need to hear it from me, but you guys have several cars with legit chances to be there in victory lane on Sunday. So best to you and best to your team coming up on Sunday.
Thanks, man. Hopefully we win it this year.
That is Sam Schmidt right there, part owner, of course, Arrow McLaren Racing. I did find it interesting that he snuck in there, Andy Sweeney, in reference to your question about Kyle Larson, that maybe in the past there's been some prima donnas from the one-offs.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So referencing a Spaniard by chance?
Potentially.
Maybe.
Yeah, he did make sure he threw that in there, though,
Senor
did he not?
Alonso. And again, we've talked with Kyle Larson for 12 minutes, but I didn't get prima donna vibe at all from him. And, in the various interactions I've talked with people about that have been there out at the track, or certainly other interviews, I don't get that at all. So I hope, for many reasons, I want Mother Nature to cooperate on Sunday, but also, you want Kyle Larson to have a legit shot at it, because, certainly he and many people, as Sam Schmidt just pointed out with us, have put so much into this attempt.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated, like, if he's, like, near the front and there he comes to, like, a rain delay, like, if he's, like, second or third, what's he doing in that situation?
The sound of it is they would bail. And basically, I think I have this right, and we should probably confirm it at some point here the next couple of days, but, he does have a guaranteed spot in the NASCAR playoffs due to his win in Kansas a couple weeks ago. But in order for that to come to fruition, you do have to start every regular season race. And it doesn't sound like NASCAR has budged at all in any sort of exception here with this rule. Now, me, as a very, novice racing fan, I look at it and say, wait a minute, NASCAR, the marketing you're getting with Kyle Larson doing Indy 500? That is tremendous.
Well, you're getting it all morning, all afternoon, and then your event at night. You're literally getting it
and you're
all
getting it on
Sunday.
NBC when,
Fair enough,
that aspect to it.
There's going to be a Larson helicopter cam probably.
Literally.
There he goes into the skies.
This is a storyline that Sports Center would throw on there.
Sure.
So
non-racing people care about this.
Right. And, for NASCAR and IndyCar, as you are in a time, similar to golf, where you're trying to reach the next generation of fan, this just seems like a storyline you would try to make an exception for. So unless something changes, Mark, that's another reason why I continue to bring up the weather, because obviously for 300,000 people, it matters a whole lot fan-wise. But for the Kyle Larson aspect of it, even the threat of rain, you could think maybe would have, some potential on his schedule coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm looking at Nathan Brown of the Indy Star. I don't think Tony Kanaan's going to be in the cards.
So the thought was maybe tomorrow, right? Kanaan would get some refresher laps in, and then he would be available.
So this is last night. This is Nathan tweeting last night. Nothing is finalized, but it's sounding increasingly unlikely Kanaan will run the necessary special session, which is 30 laps for the veteran refresher, to be cleared to stand in for Kyle Larson should rain delay the start of Sunday's 500, and Hendrick opt to send Larson to Charlotte. Now, this is Nathan. From what I understand, IndyCar hasn't given the green light to bending its rules that limit the pool allowed to fill in for Larson, if called upon, only to those who participated in practice and qualifying. Errol McLaren has asked for special exception given the uniqueness.
It's going to be interesting.
So that's where we are. I hate talking about weather.
I know.
It's the
Trust
worst.
me.
Because we have no idea what's going to
Call
happen.
Brian Wilkes, get him on the horn.
In all seriousness, I think we are going to have to do something weather-related here. Carb Day does look pretty good, but again, the early look at Sunday right now is rain in the forecast. We will continue to monitor that throughout.
Pacer Celtics game 1. We'll get back to that, plus something that was said post-game by a Pacer player that I think I disagree with. We'll do it next. We'll keep talking about it. It's a Wednesday here. We got you to 10 o'clock, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We've called on Michael Grady to cope with us here, and he will do that coming up at 9:40. You know, again, a sneaky play from last night, Andy, that I thought was big, was Aaron Nesmith, the challenge of the Jason Tatum layup dunk attempt, and it ended up leading to Nesmith's sixth foul. I thought that was a huge play. I love Nesmith's effort. Love it. I love it on both ends of the floor. I love how he plays. Boy, I thought he was great in Game 7. I thought he was really good last night. And, you know, he's obviously drawing big assignments here defensively. But I thought that was a moment where, and I know it's split-second decision, and it's easy to say from the cheap seats, but I thought that was one that you got to let go. Having that fifth foul, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he had just gotten his fifth foul right before that.
On the breakaway, yeah.
That is one where you got to know your value to the team. And when he commits that foul, you send a great foul shooter. I mean, you're not fouling, you know, even Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown had some struggles last night from the foul line. You're fouling one of the best foul shooters in the entire NBA. And with that, that means your sixth foul is occurring. And so Tatum goes to the line, he hits both, and now Nesmith is out for the rest of the game. And you saw what happened. I mean, Nembhard now is slid over on Tatum. And, I mean, one of the biggest plays in overtime was the Tatum and one, where he breaks free from Nembhard, who looked like, you know, Jeff Van Gundy trying to hold on to Alonzo Mourning's leg. And then McConnell looks like Jeff Van Gundy trying to hold on to Mourning's leg. And Tatum lays it in and gets fouled, and boom, three-point play.
I did love when McConnell did the spin move around Payne Pritchard. You know, we were talking about that. The white guy matchup.
Pritchard had moments early, but I thought McConnell had some cooking moments
McConnell
there.
was better
In the second half. Yeah, Pritchard was good early.
McConnell
then,
was better.
But then McConnell got the better.
What are they both 6'1"? J.J. Redick goes, they're both 6'1", and however much they weigh. And we're like, we get it. You're doing the white guy versus the white guy thing, J.J. We understand. And we can talk about this as we go.
Pointing at each other.
It really is. Are you going to, tomorrow morning we walk in here, are you going to have picked yourself up off the mat? Because I think the national rhetoric here, and I don't have any TV, so I'm not exactly sure like what ESPN or CBS
Pacers
has
meltdown
been
is the
saying.
headline.
I mean, it is a meltdown. Like, what's killing me here is it is a meltdown. They gave it away. They gagged game one. There is no question about that. With that being said, I'm not scared of the Celtics. I also sit here thinking the Pacers are going to be in games and they're going to win games in this series.
I do think that as well. I think the difference for me is the Knicks walked out of Madison Square Garden after game one being like, we have won the title. We're going to party in the streets, this and that. Sure, Celtics fans might feel a little bit of that. But, I mean, and I'm mainly going off of, well, I mean, I watched Joe Mazzulla's press conference and Jaylen Brown. I mean, that is a pissed-off team.
They weren't happy with the way they played.
And how they played. And, again, Game 2 has been their issue. They've lost Game 2s at home to Cleveland and Miami. So it was part of kind of why I felt like last night the Pacers had such a great chance. I brought up the NFL wildcard analogy of, no, I think the Pacers are going to come in here and play really well. I thought the line of 10.5 was ridiculous. And the Pacers did. But I kind of looked at it like, wait, I think Game 1's the one that you try and get because just naturally – the chatter with Boston's going to be like, what are our Game 2 issues? Like, we got to be mentally locked into that. And the vibes post-game, it seemed like that's where they're at. But, again, we'll see how it plays. I mean, I expect the Pacers to respond. It's just more of the quality of the opponent is different than what you just had.
The Boston fans, while they're crazy like the Knicks fans, they don't treat every little game the way that the New York Knicks fans do. We've seen that, no doubt, over the years. What did Miles Turner say? We'll dive into that. And then the litany of mistakes that led to the loss. You know, we'll dive back into it. We'll do it with you. We'll do it next on this Wednesday. Wake Up Call, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The 76th Annual Little Five.
6 and 2/10 seconds to get the last shot. Halliburton has it, bounces it once, and takes a three from way out that goes right through the middle. Ball comes in from the far side near the hash. Shepard got it in. One bounce Halliburton. He leans in. Brown played him beautifully, but he hit the three anyway. From the left side, it hit the glass, the rim, back to the glass, and it went in. Boy, that was a fortuitous development. Brown with it, straddling the arc right side. Pass deflected, stolen by Siakam. On the Boston turnover, it's Halliburton up the floor, and Siakam, after forcing the turnover, ran from end to end like a gazelle, took the pass in the lane, and threw it down with that sledgehammer. Ball will come in from the baseline far side. Holiday will get it in. He'll get it to the corner. A three on the way, Brown, and we're tied. The good news is that the Pacers have 5 7/10 seconds to counter at the other end. That was not an easy shot. Nembhard will play it in. Game tied, 5 7/10 to go. He got it in. Halliburton has it, drives it, 3 seconds to go. He is in all kinds of trouble. We're going to overtime.
Tatum wanting it, gets it inside. Tatum across the lane, count it, and a foul. Banks it home, and the game is tied. Up to Tatum, sidestep, three-pointer, puts it up. Bang!
This loss is totally on me. With 10 seconds in regulation, we should have just taken the timeout, advanced the ball, and found a way to get it in and made a free throw or two and ended the game.
That's not on him. That's not on him. I had 2 bad turnovers that I feel like cost us the game, one in for fourth and one in overtime.
We showed our age a little bit tonight, you know what I mean? I think, being a youthful team and being at this high stake of a game, I think those uncharacteristic mistakes just made their way out.
I got to be better, and I will be better in game 2, and we'll respond the right way.
I know the breakdown. Everything is gonna shake now someday.
Kicking the you-know-what, the definition of it. Unfortunately, for years, we have been the ones, thanks to one Reggie Miller doing the choke sign to others. It was probably, unfortunately, do it to yourself last night with how the final few seconds unfolded there of regulation. Hell, even some moments in overtime as well. Just brutal, Andy Sweeney. Absolutely brutal. Moral victories, very difficult to sit here and point to on this Wednesday morning.
Yeah, and there's something that you heard in that open that I want to hit on, and I've been thinking about it. Do I agree with this? When players speak right after the game, you don't want to hold everything they say against them. It's emotional, and good God, I know Pacer fans had trouble getting to sleep last night. I'm sure you can only imagine the players that put everything on the line. You had the game won, seemingly, and I know here in a second we'll go through again, I think there's 7 different things that happened from 27 seconds on that was a debacle there. But Miles Turner, who I like a great deal and who I know in other years and other seasons, if you listen to JMV, that's my guy, that Miles Turner has been, polarizing, divisive. He's been a talking point. But Miles Turner had a hell of a night and is a hell of a basketball player.
His shot making was unbelievable last night.
If you gave, and I mean this, okay, if you gave me a play to run at the end for the Pacers season, if they did a little pick and pop with Halliburton and he gets it to Turner, who gets a look at the top of the key, to me, that's the best shot in their offense that's not a layup or a dunk. And I mean that. I would take him in him making those types of shots, and he made some last night. He is a good player. He is a player that is improved. I say all that to say but I disagreed with his comments that you heard there about their age showing and they're a youthful team. I'm sorry. At this point, I don't buy that. I bought it game 1 against Milwaukee, where they looked ridiculous, and maybe even a game or so, KB, to where the crowd got on them in the New York series. I could have those types of conversations, but it's not a youthful thing when this is your 14th game in this postseason. I just, at some point, this team, in my opinion, this was going to be my opinion if they would have hung on and won, they grew up. I mean, I think Game 6 against the Knicks, they grew up in Cambridge. Going on the road, winning Game 7 in MSG, they grew up. This is your 14th game in the postseason. You have several guys, including yourself, including Pascal Siakam. You have guys that have played heavy minutes in the NBA, that have played heavy minutes, has Siakam in the postseason. And some of the mistakes that you made were not all player mistakes. Rick Carlisle, multiple opportunities to call a timeout, not switching at the end, which left Siakam in a bad spot. If you want to put it on Siakam for not fouling Jaylen Brown, that's not a youthful mistake. That is a guy that quite literally has been through the battles of winning an NBA championship. Some of the Neesmith picking up his 5th and 6th foul. He's not a youthful player. Tyrese Halliburton dribbling the ball off his leg at times. A couple different instances there. The mistakes, I think it's okay to say we made a mistake and not have a qualifier to it. It happens in games. It happens if you're a 15-year vet or if you're a 5-game player, and I thought that's what we saw last night. I know I'm nitpicking. Listen, we have been through the mistakes. We've been through the end of game. We've been through the rhetoric that's out there by some that the series is over. I don't believe that. We can dive into, I think they got a great chance. I mean, I think they have a chance to win some games, to be in these games and have these opportunities at the end of games. I think bleep sometimes just happens. We open in the 7 o'clock hour, KB. I said sometimes, unfortunately, you're in someone else's movie for a night. And, just a couple days ago on Sunday, the Knicks were in the Pacers movie as they're shooting 67% from the field. And perhaps last night, things changed. But I think this team has grown up some. I no longer view them as this young team that is going to make mistakes because they haven't played 300 playoff games together. I think just a bunch of bleep happened at the end of that game, and it's okay just to say, we screwed up. The coaches screwed up. Carlisle screwed up. The players screwed up that were in the game, and it took 6-7 different screw-ups to lose that type of game, and unfortunately, they did.
ESPN had a wild stat last night. I think 250 some straight playoff games with teams up 3 with the ball, less than 10 seconds to go, and 250 straight wins until the Pacers blew that one last night. Again, we've talked about it so much all morning long of the self-inflicted turnovers. This is not Tatum making an unbelievable defensive play or Drew Holiday's all-NBA defense, forcing a turnover. I mean, it's Halliburton dribbling off his leg. It's Halliburton dribbling out of bounds. It's obviously, Nembhard on the inbounds pass. I think he panicked thinking it was about to be a 5-second call. It's not a great place to inbound it. Rick, again, said after the game, as you just heard there, he would have liked to or should have advanced it. Hindsight obviously right there. He also had a moment once it gets to kind of 3.5 seconds.
I know.
You can take that timeout.
Yeah, you can.
And you won't be able to advance it, but you draw up something different and try to get it in. And then you brought up, and I think my biggest issue on the foul up 3 isn't necessarily the foul. It's more of if you switch everything there, you make the inbound pass very difficult, especially where Drew Holiday ended up throwing that. Underneath your own basket like that, across the court to the corner, that is a small pocket for you to throw that pass. And he was able to do that because Siakam was late getting to Jaylen Brown. So those are some of the areas I point to. Again, Andy, J.J. Redick, I thought, said it really well late when it looked like the Pacers were going to win that game. The Pacers did not steal game 1. They earned game 1. They took heavy punches, down double figures in the first half, held down double figures in the first 2.5 minutes, punched back, down double figures in the third quarter, punch back. You go back to overtime. I mean, they had great chances in overtime.
Oh, I know.
To win the game.
It's not like Boston came out and hit 3 straight threes to open overtime.
No, I mean,
sometimes you see that. That's not what happened.
Hell, people probably thought Boston minus 10 in overtime. Take Boston to win by more than 10. So that, I think, is what adds to the kick in the Richard right here on this Wednesday morning. It's that you're sitting here and you took punches, you played at their pace, It's the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. It's the team that's clearly been the best team in the East all year long. Those chances to do that away from your own building with Kristaps Porzingis still in street clothes, are they going to be sitting on a platter in Game 2? Is it going to be sitting on a platter in Game 5? Is it going to be sitting on a platter in Game 7?
And Porzingis is probably back in Game 4. That's what Woj said yesterday.
Is tomorrow night the final road? And I know we're getting back kind of to the Milwaukee series with Giannis, and let's not act like Porzingis is Giannis, but still, he obviously is a critical piece to them. Is tomorrow night your only chance to beat them on the road without Porzingis in this series? That, I think, is where so much of just the absolute bash your head against the wall lies, because you had it sitting right there. Again, 250 straight wins for playoff teams in that situation, and you weren't able to get it done.
Yeah, I know that. Listen, I'm not the biggest Kristaps Porzingis fan. In fact, I'm not a fan of his much at all. It didn't move the needle for me when the Celtics got him. But, Al Horford cannot be playing 40 minutes in these games if you're a Boston Celtic.
Well, and Cornette got exposed when he was out there. So, yes, the Pacers, and I said it kind of entering the series. On paper, Turner and Siakam are going to have an advantage, and that was abundantly clear last night. You've got to continue to, dive into that here in Games 2 and Games 3.
Yeah, Hauser had 9 minutes and Cornette had 13. So, again, there are 3 different guys that would play outside of Peyton Pritchard. The Boston bench, I don't think is going to give him much, but their other players are just so good.
Well, Holiday was incredible last night.
He was great. What's funny? Me and Mark were talking, I don't know, you were getting a drink of water, and I said to Mark, low-key, the Drew Holiday trade is just a horrific trade for Milwaukee. Holiday, he runs a team. He's tough as hell. He can score. He can rebound. He is, Halliburton.
Defends no other.
That's what I'm saying. Halliburton called him the best defender in the NBA.
Halliburton
after
was
the game
0 of 6 with 2 turnovers when guarded by Drew Holiday last night.
And Holiday made big plays. He got a couple loose balls. He got an offensive rebound that led to a bucket. And you took a baller who does everything on the floor, and you're Milwaukee, and you trade it for a $50 million guy that only shoots 36-footers.
Yeah,
That's a terrible trade.
I know I was in the minority when it happened, but when the Drew Holiday trade happened, I
wanted him.
I was one of the very
few. Is his wife local from Carmel or
Ben
something?
Davis, shout out.
There
Brad Bowen, my father taught her. I think he would say one of his favorite, if not his favorite students in his history in Wayne Township. So, yes, shout out to Lauren Cheney. I am convinced their sons are going to save United States men's soccer.
Oh, are they? Okay.
She is an extremely decorated U.S. women's soccer player.
Right.
Drew Holiday, when I think of great athlete, not to get into this debate, but don't you feel like he could be a great athlete in many sports when you watch him?
Okay.
Doesn't he look like a dude that could go be a great soccer player, go be a great center fielder, go be a great football player?
Settle down. There's that battle right now between NFL and NBA players. Could they play each other's sport?
Okay.
It's like,
Drew
guys,
Holiday is not,
not even summer yet.
Not Jason. By the way, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I do think there's opportunities there. They are not, and I know I'm nitpicking a little bit, they're great players. I'm like, there's some opportunities I feel like to turn those guys over. From a dribbling standpoint, I just feel like you got some moments that you can try. Some of the doubles, if you can kind of get there, I'll be curious to see how that unfolds here throughout the rest of the series. I know Terry's been hanging in there a long, long time. Let's make sure we get him on the line. Terry, good Wednesday morning to you. Thanks for calling, man.
Good morning, Vietnam. How you guys doing?
We are swell. I think we need a little emotion, a little smile. So thank you for that.
You need something. You need some positives to enter into your room there. Hey, it was horrible. The loss was horrible, but let's forget about it. Let's embrace the positives. A, the Celtics are not overconfident and a lot less confident today than they were before that game. Our team is a lot more confident after that game. We played the best team in the NBA to overtime. Yeah, we messed up, but hey, we're on our way. We are going to win these finals, and we're going to face Dallas in the finals.
Love the optimism, Terry. I love the optimism.
You guys need to do your part. If we all dwell on the negatives, we bring the negative to town.
Terry sounds like
The
my
law
mother.
of attraction. The law of attraction. It's real, my man. So
can you do this for the
there's
Indy
lots
500 weather on Sunday?
Yeah.
No, that's a washout. So
there you go. Okay. So much for that.
What
Clear
about
your
the
Monday.
what about the positivity to the room?
Facts are facts. Gonna rain an inch and a half. That's a rain out.
Facts are facts. Oh goodness, I would
Probably
say
get some pretty good odds on Pacers Mavs bet right now
I
for the
think you
finals,
would.
right?
Listen, I will say this to Terry. I agree that I would be stunned if the Pacers came out in game 2 and just got beat over the head.
And I'd be beyond stunned if they got swept.
Yes, 100%. And I would, maybe even in 5 games, unless you said every game was close and they just gave them away. I think they win games in this series. I actually agree with Terry that, Boston right now doesn't look too scary. They have their own issues, especially if they're having to play guys 48 minutes, especially if Al Horford is having to take 12 threes and can't guard anybody on the floor. They do need Porzingis back. I would add, though, and this might be the negative nature that comes out, I would add that all of those things that I said and all those things that Terry said, not being afraid of Boston and you feel like you're going to win games in the series and everything else, it still doesn't make up for last night. In fact, for me, it makes it even more frustrating that you could have Boston be in a interesting/bad spot, and you could have the 1-0 lead instead of being down 0-1.
Oh, see, I'm all confident now after talking to Terry. I want to blast some of this. I feel like very confident.
Well,
heading
Jock
into the game.
James?
Yeah.
It's just hard to sit here and celebrate, again, moral victories or internal optimism when you're dealing with the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. It's just, how many times will these chances be there to get those games and to have a night where, Andy, name me a Pacer who had an off game last night.
Yeah, I'm with you. Ben Shepherd didn't do much, but I wouldn't say he had an off game. He was trying to D up Jason Tatum.
And again, Shepherd's your eighth guy.
he's
like,
your
what
eighth
do you
guy.
do to a degree?
I know.
Halliburton had such a far cry from the game ones he had in Milwaukee, in New York.
Toppin in the middle of the game struggled a little bit, but again,
without him early.
Yeah, but without him early, he's 15 points, 4 rebounds, a couple assists, a couple steals in 20 minutes. You can't ask for much more than a guy coming off the bench and doing that.
So that, to me, is where the frustration lies, and again, the lack of just the ability for me to, bear hug a moral victory here on this Wednesday morning, because chances on the road in the playoffs against very good teams. Boston's undefeated on the road in the playoffs. So, the Pacers haven't lost at home in 2 months. So something's going to have to give in Game 3 or Game 4, but I just don't think you can just chalk up home win, home win.
No, you can't.
That easy. And so
Boston wins on the road.
If you can't, like right now, if I were to tell you, hey, the Pacers are going to win 2 of 3 at home in this series, you'd probably sit here and say, okay.
Sounds right.
Sounds right. So that means you got to get 2 of 3 on the road the rest of the way. So that's where, again, I guess it breaks down to math. But when you're playing an opponent that's not the Knicks and how banged up they were, or even the Bucks, it's just different. Gosh, boy, he literally, did Alex Golden say poopy with us last week? Terry went poopy on the Indy 500 weather.
He said it's a fact. Is anything a fact when it comes to predicting the weather 90 hours before any event?
I was going to say, certainly not on a Wednesday morning. Now,
don't do it, Terry.
We brought up Tyler's tweet earlier. And again, Tyler tweeted at us yesterday from Tampa. He is flying in for the race and wanted our insight on whether he should push the Monday flight to Tuesday. I don't want that burden to answer him. I didn't respond to him.
Well, he wrote back. Have you seen that he wrote back?
He has responded.
Okay, what does he say?
He says, guys, I'm catching up on this morning show. Appreciate the shout out. For the record, my family lives in Indiana, and I'm not married, nor do I have kids. It strictly comes down to pulling the trigger or not. Okay, Tyler, to me now this is an easy decision. You pull the trigger. If you don't have to worry about a missus, if you don't have kids, if you got, family in the area, so you don't even have to pay to stay
That's
somewhere.
a no-brainer.
To me, it's a no-brainer. Take the day off from work. Well, you're probably off anyway, right? Memorial Day weekend. Most jobs are, we're not going to be. We're going to be here at 7 a.m. But let's say you're off on Monday.
Tuesday
you take
would
Tuesday.
be the cheaper flight too, right?
mean,
and it's less stress. You're not worrying about it then. It's not in the back of your mind. You're like, I have to leave till Tuesday.
Tyler's living the life. He has no attachments to him right now. Maybe he wants a girlfriend. Maybe he wants a wife. I don't know. Maybe he wants kids, but right now he doesn't have them.
Meet her in the infield on Sunday. Or the Coke Lot Sunday night.
I knew you were going to go the Coke Lot.
Okay, now the other tweet I wanted to bring up
Lots
was...
of couples have been met.
I'm sure.
Met there, I'm sure.
Sure. Well, you could argue some things have been met 9 months later.
Oh, boy.
Listener Jim.
Okay.
Tweeted this at us, and I wanted to get to it before the series started. Unfortunately, I did not, clearly, but I'll bring it up now. Jim placed a bet on July 7th at 6:33 p.m. on the Indiana Pacers to win the NBA title.
Okay.
His bet was $5 for the Pacers to win it all. The winnings of said bet, $1,755. Jim asked us before the start of the series, should he cash out? Before the series started, he was being offered $34.
What? I remember seeing that.
To cash out his $5 bet for $17.55. I'm curious, with 10 seconds to go in regulation last night, do you think that $34 was like $70 maybe?
Maybe, but you got to turn down $34 there, don't you?
Do you turn down 70 as well?
Yeah.
I think there's no doubt about it.
You let that ride. If it's only $5, you let that ride.
Yeah, I don't think it's even crazy.
How about on July 7th at 6:33 p.m. just laying $5 down on the Pacers to win it all?
Hey, I like it. I'm going to be laying on Saturday or Sunday morning a bunch of these top 5 plus the money bets on the Indianapolis 500. You
I
better
like where your
believe
head's
it.
at.
Now, did you happen to see?
We need to get into some odds here probably tomorrow.
Did you happen to see the guy who did take the cash out for a huge bet? So this guy named Wayne Shelton, did you happen to see it? This was a couple weeks ago. He placed a $100 parlay back in May of 2023. Okay, so last May, a year ago, on the Texas Rangers to win the World Series. They did. The Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, and they did.
Yeah, I have seen this.
And then the Oklahoma City Thunder, future for them to win the NBA championship. They've obviously lost. It was a 1 point. He was going to win on the $100 bet, 1.7 mil. Now he ended up cashing out because he didn't believe in the Thunder, and DraftKings paid him $80,000. He has to feel good about that, does he not? After that series went 7,
why do these
right?
parlays never happen to me like
I know.
this?
I hate
I never
these
get those
things.
offers.
Well, okay, so this always happens, especially, KB, in horse racing. In horse racing, there would always be a guy, a listener, one of our sales guys in Louisville who would always have the trifecta or the pick 5 and would win like a ton of money. And I was like, why would you not give that to the rest of us? If you believed in this trifecta, why would you not hook up your boy? They the betting guys.
That's selfish as hell.
They never would hook you up.
Michael Grady going to join us here in 15. Blake sends this in. He goes, to lighten the mood a bit, why the hell do we continue to wear the gold uniforms? Literally every single game. Let's switch it up, shake off the loss mojo, and wear something else. Don't get it. I got no way. I can't say that was high on my Rick Carlisle list of questions to ask him earlier this week.
Can I give you one piece of sound real quick?
I would like to see, just real quick on that, I would like to see some sort of racing theme gold out with the T-shirts coming up Friday or Saturday night.
So you want the T-shirts to be different? They've been the same, have they not, through the Milwaukee?
Well,
no, they
were
different.
I think they've been gold, but they have been different,
So
font
they changed
or
the design.
words.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, I do love the city uniforms. Are NBA teams allowed to wear city in the... What the hell were the Mavs wearing the other night?
Well, the Nuggets were wearing something crazy too, so...
I would imagine you're probably not allowed to do that, but I don't know.
Whoa. Tyler now has a similar bet. He's just screenshotted here.
Okay.
$10. He did this on January. Oh, he did this back in January, okay? January 6th. That's quite the holiday, isn't it? January 6th. $10 to win $1,210.
Okay.
There's still some pretty good odds. His cash out right now, $13.
No. Let it ride. What is it? Did he show
Pacers
you?
to win it all.
Oh, just the Pacers to win the entire thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get to a check down, I wanted to play this just because it's funny. Did you hear Rick Carlisle on the officiating last night? The free throw
he brought up
discrepancy.
Abby's tuition at UVA,
Here,
right?
go ahead and play it.
I mean, my daughter's already got to sit out one semester at college. I can't ever take a whole year off.
20 free throw discrepancy. Where were you on that? We haven't really talked about it. Yeah, the blatant one where Halliburton got fouled on the breakaway wasn't called.
I believe there were missed calls and the Pacers should have had a few more free throws. The flip side of this, and didn't we talk about this? I mean, I think you gave the numbers even in the New York series that the Pacers just don't shoot a lot of free throws, and when they get into the lane, they dish it out, and Miles Turner is as much, if not more so, is he not a perimeter player than he is a traditional big?
And I would say more than that, we could probably put a montage together of Rick Carlisle saying to us 37 times this season, we need to defend without fouling better.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't think it was alarming. I certainly thought it was wild that they missed a blatant clear block 90 seconds. Was it even 90? Hell, it seemed like it was 30 seconds into the game. Nothing like a challenge 30 seconds into the game.
KB, I almost threw my remote. We're 30 seconds into the game. We're going to a 3.5 minute timeout every single time that they challenge. Every time.
We need a quick check down.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, so let me give you just one from the loss last night. Here's Rick Carlisle. He takes blame for the loss, and he also talks about not calling a timeout multiple times there down the stretch.
This loss is totally on me. With 10 seconds in regulation, we should have just taken the timeout, advanced the ball, and found a way to get it in and made a free throw or two and ended the game. But it didn't happen. We made some other mistakes, but our guys just need to concentrate on fighting the way they fought in this game from start to finish, and we'll be back Thursday.
Yeah, game 2, it is Thursday, 8 o'clock on ESPN. Our coverage on the Fan beginning at 7:30.
9-point underdog for tomorrow night. The Pacers. The Fever are an underdog tonight out west. They will face Seattle. Seattle and LA coming up next 2 games. Neither of those teams are very good to start the season, so opportunity, at least on paper, for the Fever to get their first win. 10 o'clock tip that is going to air on WTHR. Some of those games picked up WTHR-wise you will have. That starting tonight.
Reds 2-0, Cubs 4-3 over the Braves last night. We'll take a break.
Happy 22nd birthday to Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson.
Colts OTAs later today.
To be 22 again. On the other side, pop quiz, 239-1070. We'll do it next, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Want to explore using Mitsubishi?
big? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
Very fittingly, we'll lead into Michael Grady with a speedy pop quiz here on this Wednesday morning. Mark Monte's book on Bill Vukovich. We are giving away all week long here on the pop quiz. We'll continue to do that. And again, Michael Grady, the voice of the Timberwolves as they start Western Conference Game 1 tonight. And, of course, Indy's own. And I thought I saw he just picked up some WNBA duties with the New York Liberty as well.
Oh, how about that? Good for him.
The ever busy and ever popular and very deserving Michael Grady continuing to add to the old resume there. Andy Sweeney at number 1 through 8.
Let's go. We have let's go caller number 2 just because we have game 2 coming up tomorrow in Boston.
Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning.
Tom, good luck to you. Andy Sweeney will lead it off as we got to be rather quick.
All right, Tom, let's go. Let's get a winner here on this Wednesday. Question number 1. Who was the leading scorer in last night's Game 1 between the Pacers and Celtics? Was it Halliburton, Tatum, Siakam, Holiday?
Tatum.
Number 2 here, Tom. Pacers-Celtics meet in the playoffs for the 7th time. When is the last time that these two teams faced off in a playoff series other than the opening round? 05, 04, 91, or this is the first time they are playing later than the opening round?
It's a good question.
I'm going to say 04.
Question number 3, Tom. The 108th running of the Indianapolis 500 takes place on Sunday. Roger Penske holds the record for the most wins by a car owner with 19. Which of the following car owners, though, is not tied for second place on the Indy 500 wins list? Is not tied. Is it A.J. Foyt, Michael Andretti, Lou Moore, Chip Ganassi?
Oh, God.
Good luck.
That's how I felt when Halliburton dribbled off his leg the first time.
Foyt, Andretti, Moore, Ganassi.
Foyt.
Still can't believe Ryan Bowen, my brother, went to bed with 10 seconds to go, thinking the game was over.
It's such a weird thing to do.
Offenhauser remains the king of the Indy 500 engines, powering 27 cars to victory lane. Which engine manufacturer is second on the Indy 500 wins list? Scotty really getting deep into the old Indy 500 book today. Tom, is it Cosworth, Chevrolet, Honda, or Miller?
I'm going to say Cosworth.
Question number 5. On this day in 1985, Pete Rose scored his 2,108th run of his career, passing Hank Aaron for the NL record. Who holds the Major League record for runs scored? Is it Ty Cobb, Ricky Henderson, Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds?
Quickly, I will say this is the most ridiculous trivia questions I've ever had in my life, and I think it's Ty Cobb. It's my guess.
Bob, I'm not going to push back too much on that. I did think number 1 was kind of a gift as long as you watched it. After that, Scotty did. Yeah, he went double middle finger to you. Didn't Rossi do that one race at the 500? Didn't he go middle finger on somebody? Will Power did that as well. Jason Tatum was correct.
Correct.
A.J. Foyt was correct. And Andy, it was brutal besides that.
Yeah, I did not know this. It's the first time that the Celtics and Pacers have played that isn't an opening round game. Did not know that. Honda. It's Honda. Which engine manufacturer second on the Indy 500 wins list? And then question number 5, it was not Ty Cobb. It was Ricky Henderson holds the ML record for runs scored. All right, good stuff there.
Stay on the line, Tom.
Stay on the line. We'll get you. Oh, you already
Tom,
hung up.
call back. You got a book.
Call back. You at least get the book. Come on, man. Michael Grady joins us next as we wrap things up here. Wake up call 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Every 40 seconds, a child is
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Well, our next guest needs absolutely zero introduction to these airwaves, and little did he know when Mark Dykton contacted him to come on our show today that we'd be needing him for coping reasons, probably more than anything, but I guess that's what we'll ask for, at least early on. From Indy Zone, he is Michael Grady joining us. MG, we are in a bit of mourning. We need some coping, if you don't mind, here on this Wednesday morning.
I wish I had more for you because I'm going through it too. Yeah, so I was very disappointed with what I saw last night in that ball game, one that Indiana definitely should have had. It is a long series, but opportunities like that against a team that on paper is the better squad, they don't come that often. So I'll be really curious to see what type of fight the Pacers show in Game 2 and what we'll see from Boston, because Boston there's just something about Boston I don't like.
Turnovers bother you more from the end of game situation, or maybe fouling up three, or not fouling up three, I should say?
No, the ball was kind of placed in a weird spot. He could have wrapped him up, but it's a dangerous situation because if he goes into his shooting motion, you could give him 3 free throws. It's just something about where the ball was inbounded to Jaylen Brown and in that spot and how quickly he put it up. It just would have made it difficult to make that call. If the ball is placed in a different spot and he has to dribble into a shot, that's a completely different situation. So that one made it a little bit tricky. For me, Halliburton dribbling out of bounds, the 21 turnovers, all those things, all those self-inflicted wounds. You can't control the officials. You can't control, the other team, making tough shots. Jaylen Brown, for crying out loud, deep corner like that with, his shooting elbow almost got Siakam in the face. Those are things you can't control. But dribbling it up the floor and taking care of the basketball, those are things that you can't control. And I think that's what's going to haunt these guys.
Old friend Michael Grady joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Man, I want to dive into the series. Obviously, you'll be following T-Wolves and Mavs. As interesting as Boston and the Pacers seemingly are going to be, last night was a great game, even though it went against us. I think this series is another 6 or 7. I really do. I cannot wait for this series. I guess, what are the keys to Minnesota winning this series? And then you followed this team all year. How awesome is it that here they are, Western Conference Finals, and hell, they're even favored to win the series and tonight?
Yeah, it could go 6 or 7. I think if the Timberwolves play Timberwolves basketball, it won't. I think that they're that much better than Dallas. I think they have 2 guys who can make Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving work for everything on the perimeter, and Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels, who was just named to the all-defensive second team. And I don't think that Dallas has anybody that can really guard Ant or guard Karl Anthony Towns. Minnesota also has a distinct advantage in terms of size with Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns and Naz Reid coming off the bench. So I really feel like Minnesota, they're just built for the playoffs. And the way that, unfortunately we didn't see that last night in Game 1 with Boston and Indiana, but, they shouldn't be calling as much in the playoffs. They allow you to get away with more in terms of physicality, which plays right into Minnesota's hands. And, Luka Doncic at times in the OKC series looked like he was on one leg. Other times he looked great. And so he's going to have to play out of his mind for this to be a series with Minnesota. So don't get me wrong, Dallas could certainly win this series. I just find it hard to believe, given the way that Minnesota is playing, beating the defending champions in 7 games, sweeping Phoenix in the first round. They're just playing on a different level right now, and a loss with Dallas would be a huge letdown given what we've seen over the course of the season and, again, this postseason.
You know that voice quite well. He is the one and only Michael Grady joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Again, talking T-Wolves, of course, MG, TV voice of Minnesota. What Anthony Edwards, MG, did at the end of that Pacer game here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse earlier this year, It's not hyperbole, in my opinion, to say that was one of the greater individual efforts I've seen in a closing out of a game stretch, frankly, ever. I always enjoy your perspective on athletes, and so I'm curious because Edwards is such a fascinating guy to me. How would you describe just how he's generally wired?
Old school. He's got a killer. One of the things going back to the Indiana days, especially since this is the first conference finals for Indiana since 2014. One of the things for those who would remember on the radio we would talk about with Paul George is I would compare him to Neo. And I'll continue to use that for the rest of my career with an athlete who has all the tools.
Shout out Neo.
To be special. Yeah, shout out. A player who has all the tools to be special, and is just going through the process of believing it, and then putting into work to put all of those abilities and all of those talents on display. And it was great watching Paul George and his ascent in that regard. And one example that I give all the time was when he dunked on Birdman, and in that series against Miami. It was in Miami, down the lane, dunks on Birdman. It was an unbelievable sequence. I think it was the first time I cussed on Twitter. And then following that play, because it was toward the end of the third quarter, LeBron James then hits a three. And third quarter ends, and LeBron looks over at Paul George, and he's like, and smiles as if to say, hey, we got a good one now, and daps up Paul George on their way to their respective benches. And it was in that moment that I said, we're cooked. To me, it looked like Paul George was looking at that moment like, LeBron just accepted me. I'm in the club with the elites. Look at me. As opposed to from a competitive standpoint, man, get out of here. I don't know that Reggie Miller would have dapped up Michael Jordan in a sequence when they're going blow for blow. I don't know that we would see that in a situation like that. Bucket for bucket, hit for hit. I don't know that we would see that. But to me, Paul George kind of dapping him up was kind of giving in a little bit from a competitive standpoint. And one of the things that I would say often is if Paul George had Lance Stephenson's mindset and competitiveness, it would be a special, special player. I say that long story to say Anthony Edwards has all the skill set of Paul George, and we would say Paul George, man, he's one of the best two-way players in the league. He has all the skill set with that Lance Stephenson edge and tenacity out there on the basketball court. You put those together, that's who we see in Anthony Edwards. He idolized Kevin Durant, and for anybody who watched that Phoenix series, I believe it was Game 2. Anthony Edwards got cooking with Kevin Durant guarding him, hit a three right in his face, came down the court and talked junk to him the entire way down the floor. It wasn't a, hey, can I be in the club too? Hey, can you consider me one of the elites, Kevin? It's, I'm taking the crown from you. This to me, and I mentioned this when Minnesota offered me the job to come here, and what I appreciated about the Timberwolves, and I didn't know a whole lot. But there was a bravado, there was an edge, there was like this trash talk element to Anthony Edwards that reminded me growing up of watching Reggie Miller in my childhood. This is a small market team in Minnesota, and so to have the audacity to believe that you can go toe to toe with some of these bigger markets, with some of these bigger names, with a star who has the, again, audacity to talk trash to everybody, to say, hey, we've arrived, reminds me of Reggie Miller, beating the Knicks and then telling the camera on NBC, Indiana, this is for you. We're coming home, yes. Instead, it's Anthony Edwards saying to Charles Barkley, bring your ass. So it's just it's been a fun ride for me to be on. It reminds me of my early years. And he's a special, special player. They just announced yesterday that he had the dunk of the year with his dunk on John Collins in Utah. He had the block of the year, as voted by fans, with the block over Neesmith in that spectacular game. And then he had the photo of the year, which again was his dunk over John Collins. He's a special player, and he's just 22.
I think Minnesota Tourism, didn't they do the bringyoass.com? I think they changed the URL to celebrate the back and forth there with Charles Barkley. You know, one thing I'm interested in, MG, about Edwards is you've seen his ascension. You mentioned taking the job and knowing that there was something there, but there's a difference between being a good player, a promising young player, even an all-star, to being, hey, this might be the best player. This is a guy that can actually lead us to the NBA Finals and win a championship. Over the last year or so, how has he even changed in the minds and in the eyes of the fan there in Minnesota? I would imagine I mean, they think differently of him, do they not, than they did even a year or two ago?
And I'll you know, aside from the fan, I'll just say from myself that my first training camp with the Timberwolves almost, you know, about a year and a half ago, I went into practice and I didn't notice Ant. I noticed Naz Reid. Naz Reid was hitting threes, blocking shots, doing all kind of. I mean, he was everywhere, but I didn't notice Ant. So I nudged my television partner Jim Peterson. I said, what's going on with Ant? And he told me that he kind of coasts through practices, but you'll notice him on game days. And that was my first red flag. So during the season, he had a good year. Karl Anthony Towns goes down with the calf injury. Anthony Edwards elevates his game, has a strong end of the season, elevates his play for the playoffs, and then missed a shot that would have sent that first-round series with the Denver Nuggets to a Game 6, but he missed the shot. So we get into the offseason, and then Anthony Edwards participates with Team USA in the FIBA World Cup with Steve Kerr as his head coach. And he put a lot into that experience. He's going against some of his peers, and he wants to prove every day that he's the best player on the floor. And quick story, Chris Finch, the head coach of the Timberwolves, was called by Steve Kerr, and Steve Kerr asked him, look, we got this squad, Team USA. Do you think that Ant would be okay with coming off the bench? And Chris Finch said, yes, he'll do whatever you need, whatever's best for the team. So Steve Kerr, first practice for Team USA, goes to Anthony Edwards and says, hey, we would like to bring you off the bench. But if you would recall, for the Redeem team, Dwayne Wade, as great as he was, came off the bench because Kobe was starting. And Anthony Edwards looks at Steve Kerr and says, yeah, that's great and all, but who on this team is Kobe? So Anthony Edwards doesn't start the first game, but it's very clear they need him in the starting lineup, and he started the rest of the way and was the best player on the team. He dominated every practice, and then they, of course, finished fourth that season. Just didn't have enough great players on the squad, and that'll change with the Paris Olympics. But the first day of training camp this year, he sent a message to everybody on the team that this was his squad. Everybody on the squad came in with the best shape of their life, but it was Anthony Edwards sending a message every single practice. They go undefeated in preseason. They just looked a step faster than everybody. They started the season 1-2, but from that point on went on a winning streak, beating the Denver Nuggets, handing the Boston Celtics their first loss, and they were number one in the West for most of the NBA regular season with Anthony Edwards leading the way. For me, it was his approach to practice that changed everything for this Timberwolves squad. I've been around Kevin Durant during my time in Brooklyn, and I see the way that he approaches practice as if it's a game rep. There's not a wasted rep on the floor when Kevin Durant is practicing, and so that's why it was a red flag to me when I found out that he kind of coasts in practices. But that changed this summer, and I think that's a lesson to everybody. You know, the work that you put in behind the scenes when nobody is looking certainly sets the stage with how you perform when the lights are on.
Fittingly, we talked to Michael Grady from the Old Network Indiana studios here on The Circle. Of course, that is the voice of one Michael Grady with us here. To round it out, MG, and can't thank you enough for the time. We got just a couple of minutes left. What's new in your world? I thought I saw maybe a press release back to New York for a little Liberty action for some WNBA games at some point here. What is kind of give us an update on what's new with you the rest of the year, broadcasting wise?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. No, things have been moving. Things have been moving for sure. This postseason run While you hope for it, you just don't want to jinx it. You don't necessarily know if these things are going to fall through the way that you wish. And so first time for the Pacers getting to a conference final since 2014, which was my last time getting to a conference final. So to see the team competing here in late May is really awesome. Once this run is over, I'm going to definitely get some vacation in, but then I'll go to New York and hopefully be a part of another championship run. The New York Liberty got to the WNBA Finals last year, and they brought the squad back, and I'm happy to be able to call their games the second half of the WNBA season. And then I got some other things lined up that hopefully will be announced soon. And but no, I just, everything that I do, I just continue to, again, I want to make myself proud, but I want to represent my family well, and want to represent Indy, represent the East Side, and as well. So it's been a fun ride. It's been a truly fun ride to this point.
Well, shout out to Warren Central and shout out to Michael Grady.
Absolutely.
MG, always enjoy our conversations. Nice to get the Neo Lance Stevenson on the bingo card as well. That certainly made me smile on that. And enjoy this ride, MG. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Take care.
That's Michael Grady, Payless Liquors Hotline.
Dude, Anthony Edwards is that dude.
I really enjoyed that Edwards aspect to it, and excited to continue to watch this playoff run. And MG always brings great perspective.
He's
on that.
not just an all-star. He's a guy that can lead you, along with some other good players, to the NBA championship. We'll have the podcast up, 1075thefan.com. Jake and Jimmy, JMV at 3 o'clock. We're back at it tomorrow at 7 a.m.
A slow network is no